Should I meditate every day?
As in all things, there are no shoulds or shouldn'ts here. It is not a question of what you should do, but what you choose to do. Some souls seek to walk in awareness. Some recognize that in this life most people are sleepwalking, unconscious. They are going through life without consciousness. Yet souls who walk in awareness choose a different path. They choose another way. They seek to experience all the peace and joy, limitlessness and freedom, wisdom and love that oneness brings, not just when they have dropped the body and it has fallen asleep, but when they have risen the body up. It is said of a soul which creates such an experience, he is risen. Others in the so-called New Age term this a process of consciousness raising. It doesn't matter what terms you use. Words are the least reliable form of communication. It all comes down to living in awareness. And then it becomes total awareness. And what is it of which you eventually become totally aware? You eventually become totally aware of who you are. Daily meditation is one way you may achieve this, yet it requires commitment, dedication, a decision to seek inner experience, not outer reward. And remember, the silences hold the secrets. And so the sweetest sound is the sound of silence. This is the song of the soul. If you believe the noises of the world rather than the silences of your soul, you will be lost.
So daily meditation is a good idea.
A good idea? Yes. Yet know again what I have just said here. The song of the soul may be sung many ways. The sweet sound of silence may be heard many times. Some hear the silence in prayer. Some sing the song in their work. Some seek the secrets in quiet contemplation, others in less contemplative surroundings. When mastery is reached, or even intermittently experienced, the noises of the world can be muffled, the distractions quieted, even in the midst of them. All of life becomes a meditation. All of life is a meditation in which you are contemplating the divine. This is called true wakefulness or mindfulness. Experienced in this way, everything in life is blessed. There is struggle and pain and worry no more. There is only experience, which you may choose to label in any way you wish. You may choose to label all of it perfection. So use your life as a meditation and all the events in it. Walk in wakefulness, not as one asleep. Move with mindfulness, not mindlessly. And do not tarry in doubt and fear, neither in guilt nor self-recrimination, yet reside in permanent splendor, in the assurance that you are grandly loved. You are always one with me. You are forever welcome. Welcome home. For your home is in my heart, and mine in yours. I invite you to see this in life as you will surely see it in death. Then you will know that there is no death, and that what you have called life and death are both part of the same unending experience. We are all that is, all that ever was, and all that ever will be. World without end.
I love you. Do you know that?
Yes. And I love you. Do you know that?
I'm starting to. I'm really starting to.
Good.
Will you tell me some things about the soul, please?
Sure. I will try to explain within your limited realm of understanding, but do not allow yourself to become frustrated if certain things don't make sense to you. Try to remember that you're bringing this information through a unique filter, a filter which has been designed by you to shield you from too much remembering.
Remind me again why I did that.
The game would be over if you remembered everything. You came here for a particular reason, and your divine purpose would be thwarted if you understood how everything is put together. Some things will always remain a mystery at this level of consciousness. and it is right that they should. So do not try to solve all the mysteries. Not at one time, anyway. Give the universe a chance. It will unfold itself in due course. Enjoy the experience of becoming.
Make haste slowly.
Exactly.
My father used to say that.
Your father was a wise and wonderful man.
Not many people would describe him that way.
Not many people knew him.
My mother did.
Yes, she did.
And she loved him.
Yes, she did.
And she forgave him.
Yes, she did.
For all of his behaviors that were hurtful.
Yes. She understood and loved and forgave. And in this she was and is a wonderful model, a blessed teacher.
Yes. So, will you tell me about the soul?
I will. What do you want to know?
Let's start with the first and obvious question. I already know the answer, but it gives us a starting point. Is there such a thing as the human soul?
Yes, it is the third aspect of your being. You are a three-part being made up of body, mind, and spirit.
Well, I know where my body is. I can see that. And I think I know where my mind is. It's in the part of my body called my head, but I'm not sure I have any idea where my...
Wait a minute. Hold it. You're wrong about something. Your mind is not in your head.
It's not?
No. Your brain is in your skull. Your mind is not.
Well, where is it then?
In every cell of your body.
Whoa.
What you call the mind is really an energy. It is thought, and thought is an energy, not an object. Your brain is an object. It is a physical, biochemical mechanism, the largest, most sophisticated, but not the only mechanism in the human body, with which the body translates or converts the energy, which is your thought, into physical impulses. Your brain is a transformer. So is your whole body. You have little transformers in every cell. Biochemists have often remarked at how individual cells, blood cells, for instance, seem to have their own intelligence. They do, in fact.
That goes not just for cells, but for larger parts of the body. Every man on the planet knows about a particular body part that often seems to have a mind of its own.
Yes, and every woman knows how absurd men become when that is the body part they allow to influence their choices and decisions.
Some women use that knowledge to control men.
Undeniable. And some men control women through choices and decisions made from that place.
Undeniable.
Want to know how to stop the circus?
Absolutely.
This is what was meant earlier by all that talk about raising the energy of life to include all 7 chakra centers. When your choices and decisions come from a place larger than the limited locale you have described, it is impossible for women to control you, and you would never seek to control them. The only reason that women would ever resort to such means of manipulation and control is that there seems to be no other means of control, at least none nearly as effective, and without some means of control, men often become, well, uncontrollable. Yet if men would demonstrate more of their higher nature, and if women would appeal more to that part of men, the so-called battle of the sexes would be over, as would most other battles of any kind on your planet. As I've said earlier, this does not mean men and women should give up sex or that sex is part of a human being's lower nature. It means that sexual energy alone, when not raised to higher chakras and combined with the other energies that make one a whole person, produces choices and outcomes that do not reflect the whole person. These are often less than magnificent. The whole of you is magnificence itself. Yet anything less than the whole of you is less than magnificent. So if you want to guarantee that you'll produce a less than magnificent choice or outcome, make a decision from your root chakra center only. Then watch the results. They are as predictable as can be.
I think I knew that.
Of course you did. The largest question facing the human race is not when will you learn, but when will you act on what you've already learned.
So the mind is in every cell?
Yes. And there are more cells in your brain than anywhere else. So it seems as though your mind is there. Yet that is just the main processing center, not the only one.
Good, I'm clear. So where is the soul?
What do you think it is?
I don't know, behind the third eye?
No.
In the middle of my chest? To the right of my heart? Just beneath the breastbone?
No.
Okay, I give up.
It is everywhere.
Everywhere?
Everywhere.
Or like the mind?
Oops. Wait a minute. The mind is not everywhere.
It's not? I thought you just said it was in every cell of the body.
That is not everywhere. There are spaces between the cells. In fact, your body is 99% space.
Ah, this is where the soul is?
The soul is everywhere, in, through, and around you. It is that which contains you.
Wait a minute. Now, you just wait a minute. I was always taught that the body is the container of my soul. Whatever happened to your body is the temple of your being?
A figure of speech.
Huh?
It is useful in helping people to understand that they are more than their bodies, that there is something larger that they are. There is, literally. The soul is larger than the body. It is not carried within the body, but carries the body within it.
I hear you, but I'm still having a hard time picturing this.
Have you ever heard of an aura?
Yes. Is this the soul?
It is as close as we can come in your language and your understanding to giving you a picture of an enormous and complex reality. The soul is that which holds you together, just as the soul of God is that which contains the universe and holds it together.
Wow. This is a complete reversal of everything I've ever thought.
Hang on, my son. The reversals have just begun.
But if the soul is, in a sense, the air in and around us, and if everyone else's soul is the same, where does one soul end and another begin? Uh-oh, don't tell me.
You see, you already know the answer.
There is no place where another soul ends and ours begins. Just like there's no place where the air in the living room stops and the air in the dining room starts. It's all the same air. It's all the same soul.
You've just discovered the secret of the universe.
And if you are that which contains the universe, just as we are that which contains our bodies, then there's no place where you end and we begin. You can clear your throat all you want, but for me this is a miraculous revelation. I mean, I knew I always understood this, but now I understand it.
That's great. Isn't that great?
You see, my problem with understanding in the past had to do with the fact that the body is a discrete container, making it possible to differentiate between, well, this body and that body. And since I always thought that the soul was housed in the body, I therefore differentiated between this soul and that soul.
Quite naturally, yes.
But if the soul is everywhere, inside and outside the body, in its aura, as you put it, then when does one aura end and another begin? And now I'm able to see for the first time really in physical terms, how it's possible that one soul does not end and another begin, and that it is physically true that we are all one.
Yippee! That's all I can say. Yippee!
I always thought that was a metaphysical truth. Now I see that it's a physical truth. Holy smoke, religion has just become science.
Don't say I didn't tell you so.
Wait a minute, if there's no place where one soul ends and another begins, does that mean there's no such thing as an individual soul?
Well, yes and no.
An answer truly befitting God.
Thank you.
But frankly, I was hoping for a little more clarity.
Give me a break here. We're moving so fast.
Yes, we are.
So let's just catch our breath here.
Okay.
Everybody relax. I'm going to explain it all to you.
Okay, go ahead. I'm ready.
You remember how I've talked to you many times now about what I've called divine dichotomy? Well, this is one of them. In fact, it's the biggest one.
I see.
It's important to learn about divine dichotomy and understand it thoroughly if you are to live in our universe with grace. Divine dichotomy holds that it is possible for two apparently contradictory truths to exist simultaneously in the same space. Now, on your planet, people find this difficult to accept. They like to have order, and anything that does not fit into their picture is automatically rejected. For this reason, when two realities begin to assert themselves, and they seem to contradict one another, the immediate assumption is that one of them must be wrong, false, untrue. It takes a great deal of maturity to see and accept that, in fact, they might both be true. Yet in the realm of the absolute, as opposed to the realm of the relative in which you live, it is very clear that the one truth, which is all there is, sometimes produces an effect which, viewed in relative terms, looks like a contradiction. This is called a divine dichotomy, and it is a very real part of the human experience. And as I've said, it's virtually impossible to live gracefully without accepting this. One is always grumbling, angry, thrashing about, vainly seeking justice, or earnestly trying to reconcile opposing forces which were never meant to be reconciled, but which, by the very nature of the tension between them, produce exactly the desired effect. The realm of the relative is, in fact, held together by just such tension. As an example, the tension between good and evil. In ultimate reality, there is no such thing as good and evil. In the realm of the absolute, all there is love. Yet in the realm of the relative, you have created the experience of what you call evil. And you have done it for a very sound reason. You wanted to experience love. Not just know that love is all there is, and you cannot experience something when there is nothing else but that. And so, you created in your reality, and continue to do so every day, a polarity of good and evil, thus using one so that you might experience the other. And here we have a divine dichotomy. Two seemingly contradictory truths existing simultaneously in the same place. Specifically, there is such a thing as good and evil. All there is love.
Thank you. Thank you for explaining this to me. You've touched on this before, but thank you for helping me understand divine dichotomy even better.
You're welcome. Now, as I said, the greatest divine dichotomy is the one we are looking at now. There's only one being, and hence only one soul. And there are many souls in the one being. Here's how the dichotomy works. You've just had it explained to you that there is no separation between souls. The soul is the energy of life that exists within and around as the aura of all physical objects. In a sense, it is that which is holding all physical objects in place. The soul of God holds in the universe. The soul of man holds in each individual human body.
So the body is not a container, a housing for the soul. The soul is a container for the body.
That's right.
Yet there are no dividing lines between souls. There's no place where one soul ends and another begins, and so it's really one soul holding all bodies.
Correct.
Yet the one soul feels like a bunch of individual souls.
Indeed it does. Indeed I do. By design.
Can you explain how it works?
Yes. While there is no actual separation between souls, it is true that the stuff of which the one soul is made manifests in physical reality at different speeds, producing different degrees of density.
Wait a minute. Different speeds. When did speed come in?
All of life is a vibration. That which you call life, you could just as easily call it God, is pure energy. That energy is vibrating constantly, always. It is moving in waves. The waves vibrate at different speeds, producing differing degrees of density or light. This in turn produces what you would call different effects in the physical world, actually different physical objects. Yet while the objects are different and discrete, the energy which produces them is exactly the same. Let me go back to the example that you used of the air between your living room and dining room. It was a good use of imagery that just popped right out of you. An inspiration.
From guess where?
Yes, I gave it to you. Now, you said there was no specific place between those two physical locations where the air of the living room stopped and the air of the dining room began.
Yeah.
That is true. Yet there is a place where the air of the living room becomes less dense. That is, it dissipates, becomes thinner. So too the air of the dining room. The further from the dining room you go, the less you smell dinner. Now the air in the house is the same air. There is no separate air in the dining room. Yet the air in the dining room sure seems like other air. For one thing, it smells different. So because the air has taken on different characteristics, it seems as though it is different air. But it is not. It is all the same air, seeming different. In the living room, you smell the fireplace. In the dining room, you smell dinner. You might even go into one room and say, "Phew, it's stuffy. Let's get some air in here." As if there was no air at all. And yet, of course, there's plenty of air. What you are wanting to do is change its characteristics. So you bring in some air from the outside. Yet that is the same air, too. There's only one air moving in, around, and through everything.
This is cool. This is really cool. I mean, I totally get this. I love the way you explain the universe to me in ways I can totally get.
Well, thank you. I'm trying here. So let me go on.
Please, please.
Like the air in your house, the energy of life, what we'll call the soul of God, takes on different characteristics as it surrounds different physical objects. Indeed, that energy coalesces in a particular way to form those objects. As particles of energy join together to form physical matter, they become very concentrated. Mashed up, pushed together, they begin to look like, even feel like, distinct units. That is, they begin to seem separate, different from all the other energy. Yet this is all the same energy behaving differently. It is this very act of behaving differently which makes it possible for that which is all to manifest as that which is many. As I explained in Book 1, that which is could not experience itself as what it is until it developed this ability to differentiate. So that which is all separated into that which is this and that which is that. I'm trying to make this very simple now.
Thank you.
The clumps of energy which coalesced into discrete units that held in physical beings are what you have chosen to call souls. Parts of me that have become the lot of you are what we are talking about here. Thus, the divine dichotomy. There is only one of us. There are many of us.
Whoa, this is great.
You're telling me? Shall I go on?
No, stop here. I'm bored. Yes, go on.
Okay. Now, as energy coalesces, it becomes, as I said, very concentrated. But the further one moves from the point of this concentration, the more dissipated the energy becomes. The air becomes thinner, the aura fades. The energy never completely disappears because it cannot. It is the stuff of which everything is made. It's all there is. Yet it can become very, very thin, very subtle, almost not there. Then, in another place, read that, another part of itself. It can again coalesce, once more clumping together to form what you call matter, and what looks like a discrete unit. Now the two units appear separate from each other, and in truth, there is no separation at all. This is, in very, very simple, elementary terms, the explanation behind the whole physical universe.
Whoa. But can it be true? How do I know I haven't just made this all up?
Your scientists are already discovering that the building blocks of all of life are the same. They brought back rocks from the moon and found the same stuff they find in trees. They take apart a tree and find the same stuff they find in you. I tell you this, we are all the same stuff. We are all the same energy, coalesced, compressed in different ways to create different forms and different matter. Nothing matters in and of itself. That is, nothing can become matter all by itself. Jesus said, without the Father, I am nothing. The Father of all is pure thought. This is the energy of life. This is what you have chosen to call absolute love. This is the God and the Goddess, the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. It is the all in all, the unmoved mover, the prime source. It is that which you have sought to understand from the beginning of time, the great mystery, the endless enigma, the eternal truth. There's only one of us, and so it is that which you are.
Thank you for being here with me in this way. Thank you for being here with all of us. For millions have heard the words in these dialogues, and millions more will yet do so. And we are breathlessly gifted by the coming of you to our hearts.
My dearest beings, I have always been in your hearts. I am only glad you can now actually feel me there. I have always been with you. I have never left you. I am you, and you are me. And we shall never be separated, ever, because that is not possible.
Yet, on some days, I feel so terribly alone. At some moments, I feel that I'm fighting this battle by myself.
That's because you have left me, my child. You have abandoned your awareness of me. Yet where there is awareness of me, you can never be alone.
How can I stay in my awareness?
Bring your awareness to others, not by proselytizing, but by example. Be the source of the love which I am in the lives of all others. For that which you give to others, you give to yourself, because there is only one of us.
Thank you. Yes, you've given me that clue before. Be the source. Whatever you want to experience in yourself, you have said, be the source of it in the lives of others.
Yes, this is the great secret. This is the sacred wisdom. Do unto others as you would have it done unto you. All of your problems, all of your conflicts, all of your difficulties in creating a life on your planet of peace and joy are based in your failure to understand this simple instruction and to follow it.
I get it. Once more, you've said it so plainly, so clearly that I get it. I'll try never to lose it again.
You cannot lose that which you give away. Always remember that.
Thank you. May I ask you a few more questions now about the soul?
I have one more general comment to make about life as you're living it.
Please.
You just said that there are times when you feel as though you're fighting this battle by yourself.
Yes.
What battle?
It was a figure of speech.
I think it was a real indicator of how you and many people really think of life. You have it in your head that it's a battle, that there is some kind of struggle going on here.
Well, it seems that way to me sometimes.
It is not that way inherently, and it doesn't have to seem that way ever.
You'll forgive me, but that's hard for me to believe.
Which is exactly why it hasn't been your reality. For you will make real what you believe is real. Yet I tell you this, your life was never meant to be a struggle and doesn't have to be, now or ever. I have given you the tools with which to create the grandest reality. You have simply chosen not to use them, or to be more accurate, you have misused them. The tools I am referring to here are the 3 tools of creation. We have talked about them much in our ongoing dialogue. Do you know what they are?
Thought, word, and action.
Good. You've remembered.
Yeah.
I once inspired Mildred Hinckley, a spiritual teacher, to say, you were born with the creative power of the universe at the tip of your tongue. That is a statement of astonishing implications, as is this truth from another teacher. As thou hast believed, so be it done unto you. These 2 statements have to do with thought and word. Another teacher had this to say about action. The beginning is God, the end is action. Action is God creating, or God experienced.
You said that in Book 1.
Book 1 was brought through by you, my son, just as all great teachings have been inspired by me and brought through human forms. Those who allow such inspirations to move them and who fearlessly share them publicly are my greatest teachers.
I'm not sure I would put myself in that category.
The words you have been inspired to share have touched millions. Millions, my son. They have been translated into 24 languages. They have reached around the world. By what measure would you grant the status of great teacher?
By the measure of one's actions, not one's words.
That is a very wise answer.
And my actions in this lifetime do not speak well of me and certainly do not qualify me as a teacher.
You've just written off half the teachers who have ever lived.
What are you saying?
I'm saying what I said through Judith Schuckman in A Course in Miracles. You teach what you have to learn. Do you believe that you must be demonstrating perfection before you can teach how to reach it? And while you have made your share of what you would call mistakes,
More than my share.
you have also shown great courage in bringing this conversation with me forward.
Or great foolhardiness.
Why do you insist on putting yourself down like that? You all do it, every one of you. You deny your own greatness as you deny the existence of me in you.
Not me. I've never denied that.
What?
Well, not recently.
I tell you before the cock crows, you will deny me 3 times. Every thought of yourself as smaller than you really are is a denial of me. Every word about yourself that puts you down is a denial of me. Every action flowing through yourself that plays out a role of not good enough or lack or insufficiency of any kind is a denial indeed, not just in thought, not just in word, but in deed.
I really didn't
Do
mean...
not allow your life to represent anything but the grandest version of the greatest vision you ever had about who you are. Now, what is the greatest vision you've ever had for yourself? Is it not that you would one day be a great teacher?
Well,
Isn't it?
yes.
Then so be it. And so it is. Until you once again deny it.
I won't deny it again.
You won't?
No.
Prove it.
Prove it?
Prove it.
How?
Say right now, I am a great teacher. Go ahead, say it.
I am... You see, the problem is all of this is going to be published. I'm aware that everything I'm writing on this legal pad is going to appear in print somewhere. People in Peoria are going to be reading this.
Peoria? Try Beijing.
Okay, China too, that's my point. People have been asking me, bugging me about Book 3 since the month after Book 2 came out. I've tried to explain why it's taken so long. I've tried to get them to understand what it's like, having this dialogue when you know the whole world is watching, waiting. It's not like it was with Book 1 and Book 2. Both of those were dialogues conducted in a void. I never even knew they would be books.
Yes, you did. In your heart of hearts, you did.
Well, maybe I hoped they'd be. But now I know, and it's different writing on this legal pad.
Because now you know everyone will be reading every word you write.
Yes, yes. And now you want me to say that I'm a great teacher, and it's difficult in front of all these people.
You want I should ask you to declare yourself in private? Is that how you think you empower yourself? I asked you to declare who you are in public precisely because you are in public here. The whole idea was to get you to say it in public. Public declaration is the highest form of visioning. Live the grandest version of the greatest vision you ever had about who you are. Begin the living of it by declaring it publicly. The first step in making it so is saying it is so.
But what of modesty? What of decorum? Is it seemly to declare our grandest idea about ourselves to everyone we see?
Every great master has done so.
Yes, but not arrogantly.
How arrogant is, I am the life and the way? Is that arrogant enough for you? Now, you said you would never deny me again, yet you've spent the last 10 minutes trying to justify doing so.
I'm not denying you. We were talking here about my greatest vision of me.
Your greatest vision of you is me. That is who I am. When you deny the greatest part of you, you deny me. And I tell you, before the dawn tomorrow, you will do this 3 times.
Unless I don't.
Unless you don't. That is right. And only you can decide. Only you can choose. Now, do you know of any great teacher who was ever a great teacher in private? The Buddha, Jesus, Krishna, all were teachers in public, no?
Yes, but there are great teachers who are not widely known. My mother was one. You just said so earlier. It's not necessary to be widely known to be a great teacher.
Your mother was a harbinger, a messenger, a preparer of the way. She prepared you for the way by showing you the way. Yet you, too, are a teacher. And as good a teacher as you know your mother to be, she apparently did not teach you never to deny yourself. You will teach others.
Oh, I want to so badly. That is what I want to do.
Do not want to. You may not have what you want. You merely declare that you are in want of it. And that's where you will be left. And you will be left wanting.
All right, okay, I don't want to. I choose to.
That's better. That's much better. Now, what do you choose?
I choose to teach others never to deny themselves.
Good. And what else do you choose?
I choose to teach others never to deny you, God, because to deny you is to deny themselves, and to deny themselves is to deny you.
Good. And do you choose to teach this haphazardly, almost by chance, or do you choose to teach this grandly, as if on purpose?
I choose to teach it on purpose, grandly, as my mother did. My mother did teach me never to deny myself. She taught it to me every day. She was the greatest encourager I ever had. She taught me to have faith in myself and in you. I should be such a teacher. I choose to be such a teacher. Of all the great wisdoms my mom taught me, she made her whole life a teaching, not just her words. That's what makes a great teacher.
You are right. Your mother was a great teacher, and you were right in your larger truth. A person does not have to be widely known to be a great teacher. I was testing you. I wanted to see where you'd go with this.
Did I go where I was supposed to go?
You went where all great teachers go, to your own wisdom, to your own truth. That is the place to which you must always go. For it is the place you must turn around and come from as you teach the world.
I know. This I know.
And what is your own deepest truth about who you are?
I am a great teacher of eternal truth.
There you have it. Calmly said, softly spoken. There you have it. You know the truth of it in your heart, and you have only spoken your heart. You are not boasting, and no one will hear it as boasting. You are not bragging, and no one will hear it as bragging. You are not beating your chest, you are opening your heart. And there's a big difference. Everyone knows who they are in their heart. They are a great ballerina, or a great lawyer, or a great actor, or a great first baseman. They are a great detective, or a great salesperson, or a great parent, or a great architect, a great poet, or a great leader, a great builder, or a great healer. And they are, each and every one, a great person. Everyone knows who they are in their heart. If they open their heart, if they share with others their heart's desire, if they live their heartfelt truth, they fill their world with magnificence. You are a great teacher. And where do you suppose that gift comes from?
You?
And so when you declare yourself to be who you are merely declaring who I am. Always declare me as source, and no one will mind you declaring yourself as great.
Yet you've always urged me to declare myself as source.
You are the source of everything I am. The great teacher with whom you are most familiar in your life said, I am the life and the way. He also said, all these things come to me from the Father. Without the Father, I am nothing. And he also said, I and the Father are one. Do you understand?
There is only one of us.
Exactly.
Which brings us back to the human soul. Can I now ask some more questions about the soul?
Go.
Okay. How many souls are there?
One.
Yes, in the largest sense, I know, but how many individuations of the one that is all are there?
Say, I like that word. I like the way you use that word. The one energy that is all energy individuates itself into many different parts. I like that.
I'm glad. So how many individuations did you create? How many souls are there?
I cannot answer that in terms you would understand.
Try me. Is it a constant number, a changing number, an infinite number? Have you created new souls since the original batch?
Yes, it is a constant number. Yes, it is a changing number. Yes, it is an infinite number. Yes, I've created new souls, and no, I have not.
Okay, I don't understand.
I know.
So help me.
Did you actually say that?
Say what?
So help me, God.
Oh, clever. Okay, so I'm going to understand this if it's the last thing I do, so help me God.
I will. You are very determined, so I will help you. Although I warn you that it is difficult to grasp or understand the infinite from a perspective that is finite. We will nevertheless give it a whirl.
Coolness.
Yes, coolness. Well, let's begin by noticing that your questions infer that a reality exists called time. In truth, there's no such reality. There's only one moment, and that is the eternal moment of now. All things that have ever happened are happening now, and ever will happen are occurring in this moment. Nothing has happened before because there is no before. Nothing will happen after because there is no after. It is always and only right now. In the right now of things, I am constantly changing. The number of ways in which I individuate, I like your word, is therefore always different and always the same. Given that there is only now, the number of souls is always constant. But given that you like to think of now in terms of now and then, it is always changing. We touched on this earlier when we spoke of reincarnation and lower life forms and how souls come back. Since I'm always changing, the number of souls is infinite. Yet at any given point in time, it appears to be finite. And yes, there are new souls in the sense that they've allowed themselves, having reached ultimate awareness and unified with ultimate reality, to voluntarily forget everything and start over. They've decided to move to a new place on the cosmic wheel, and some have chosen to be young souls again. Yet all souls are part of the original batch. Since all are being created, were created, will be created in the only moment of now. So the number is finite and infinite, changing and unchanged, depending on how you look at it. Because of this characteristic of ultimate reality, I'm often called the unmoved mover. I am that which is always moving and has never moved, is always changing, and has never changed.
Okay, I get it. Nothing is absolute with you.
Except that everything is absolute.
Unless it's not.
Exactly. Precisely. You do get it. Bravo.
Well, the truth is I think I've always understood this stuff.
Yes.
Except when I haven't.
That's right.
Unless it's not.
Exactly.
Who's on first?
No, what's on first? Who's on second?
Ta-da! So you're Abbott and I'm Costello, and this is all just a cosmic vaudeville show.
Except when it's not. There are moments and events you may want to take very seriously.
Unless I don't.
Unless you don't.
So, returning once again to the subject of souls.
Boy, that's a great book title there. The Subject of Souls.
Maybe we'll do that one.
Are you kidding? We already have.
Unless we haven't.
That's true.
Unless it's not.
You never know.
Except when you do.
You see, you are getting this. You're remembering now how it really is, and you're having fun with it. You're returning now to living lightly. You're lightening up. This is what is meant by enlightenment.
Cool.
Very cool, which means you're hot.
Yep. That's what's called living within the contradiction. You've talked about it many times. All right, well, let's get back to this subject of souls. What's the difference between an old soul and a young soul?
A body of energy, that is to say a part of me, can conceive of itself as young or old, depending on what it chooses after it reaches ultimate awareness. When they return to the cosmic wheel, some souls choose to be old souls and some choose to be young. Indeed, if the experience called young did not exist, neither could the experience called old. So some souls have volunteered to be called young, and some to be called old, so that the one soul, which is really all there is, could know itself completely. Similarly, some souls have chosen to be called good, and some bad for exactly the same reason. And this is why no soul is ever punished. For why would the one soul want to punish a part of itself for being a portion of the whole? This is all beautifully explained in the children's storybook, The Little Soul and the Sun, which lays it out simply for a child to understand.
You know, you have a way of putting things so eloquently, of articulating terribly complex concepts so clearly that even a child can understand.
Thank you.
Also, here comes another question about souls. Are there such things as soul partners?
Yes, but not the way you think of them.
What's different?
You have romanticized soul partner to mean the other half of you. In truth, the human soul, the part of me that individuates, is much larger than you have imagined.
In other words, what I call the soul is bigger than I think.
Much bigger. It is not the air in one room, it is the air in one entire house. And that house has many rooms. The soul is not limited to one identity. It is not the air in the dining room, nor does the soul split into two individuals who are called soul partners. It is not the air in the living room, dining room combination. It is the air in the whole mansion. And in my kingdom there are many mansions. And while it is the same air flowing around in and through every mansion, the air of the rooms in one mansion may feel closer. You might walk into those rooms and say, "It feels close in there." So that you understand, then, there is only one soul. Yet what you call the individuated soul is huge, hovering over, in, and through hundreds of physical forms.
At the same time?
There is no such thing as time. I can only answer this by saying yes and no. Some of the physical forms enveloped by your soul are living now in your understanding. Others individuated in forms that are now what you would call dead. And some have enveloped forms that live in what you call the future. It's all happening right now, of course, and yet your contrivance, called time, serves as a tool, allowing you a greater sense of the realized experience.
So these hundreds of physical bodies my soul has enveloped, now that's an interesting word that you use there, are all my soul partners?
That's closer to being accurate than the way you've been using the term, yes.
And some of my soul partners have lived before?
Yes, as you would describe it, yes.
Whoa, hold it. I think I just got something here. Are these parts of me that have lived before what I would now describe as my former lives?
Good thinking. You are getting it.
Thank you.
Yes, some of these are the other lives you've lived before, and some are not. And other parts of your soul are enveloping bodies that will be alive in what you call your future. And still others are embodied in different forms living on your planet right now. When you run into one of these, you may feel an immediate sense of affinity. Sometimes you may even say, "We must have spent a past life together." And you will be right. You have spent a past life together, either as the same physical form or as two forms in the same space-time continuum.
This is fabulous. This explains everything.
Yes, it does.
Except one thing.
What's that?
How about when I just know that I've spent a past life with someone? I mean, I just know it. I can feel it in my bones. And yet when I mention this to them, they feel none of this at all. What's that about?
It's about you confusing the past with the future.
Huh?
You have spent another life with them. It's just not a past life.
It's a future life?
Precisely. It's all happening in the eternal moment of now. And you have an awareness of what, in a sense, has not yet happened.
Well, then why don't they remember the future too?
These are very subtle vibrations, and some of you are more sensitive to them than others. Also, from person to person, it is different. You may be more sensitive to your past or future experience with one person than another. This usually means you've spent that other time as the part of your very huge soul enveloping the same body. Whereas when there's still that sensation of having met before, but just not as strong of one, it may mean that you have shared the same time together, but not the same body. Perhaps you were or will be husband and wife, brother and sister, parent and child, lover and beloved. These are strong bonds, and it is natural that you would feel them when you meet again for the first time in this life.
Well, if what you're saying is true, that would account for a phenomenon for which I have never been able to account. The phenomenon of more than one person in this lifetime claiming to have memories of being Joan of Arc or Mozart or some other famous person from the past. I've always thought this was proof for those who say that reincarnation is a false doctrine. For how could more than one person claim to have been the same person before? But now I see how this is possible. All that's happened is that several of the sentient beings, now being enveloped by one soul, are remembering, becoming members once again, with the part of their single soul which is now Joan of Arc or Mozart. Good heavens, this blows the lid off all limitations. It makes all things possible. The minute I catch myself in the future saying that's impossible, I'll know that all I'm doing is demonstrating that there's a great deal I don't know.
That is a good thing to remember. A very good thing to remember.
And if we can have more than one soul partner, that would explain how it's possible for us to experience those intense soul partner feelings with more than one person a lifetime, or even with more than one person at a time.
Indeed.
Then it is possible to love more than one person at a time.
Of course.
No, I mean with the kind of intense personal love that we usually reserve for one person, or at least one person at a time.
Why would you ever want to reserve love? Why would you want to hold it in reserve?
Well, because it's not right to love more than one person that way. It's a betrayal.
Who told you that?
Everybody tells me that. My parents told me that. My religion told me that. My society tells me that. Everybody tells me that.
These are some of those sins of the father being passed on to the son. Your own experience teaches you one thing, that loving everyone full out is the most joyful thing you can do, yet your parents, teachers, ministers tell you something else, that you may only love one person at a time that way. And we're not just talking about sex here. If you consider one person as special as another in any way, you are often made to feel that you have betrayed that other.
Right, exactly. That's how we've got it all set up.
Then you're not expressing true love, but some counterfeit variety.
To what extent will true love be allowed to express itself within the framework of the human experience? What limits shall we, indeed some would say, must we, place on that expression? If all social and sexual energies were to be unleashed without restriction, what would be the result? Is complete social and sexual freedom the abdication of all responsibility or the absolute height of it?
Any attempt to restrict the natural expressions of love is a denial of the experience of freedom, and thus a denial of the soul itself. For the soul is freedom personified. God is freedom by definition, for God is limitless and without restriction of any kind. The soul is God miniaturized. Therefore, the soul rebels at any imposition of limitation and dies a new death each time it accepts boundaries from without. In this sense, birth itself is a death and death a birth. For in birth, the soul finds itself constricted within the awful limitations of a body, and at death escapes those constrictions again. It does the same thing during sleep. Back to freedom the soul flies, and rejoices once again with the expression and experience of its true nature. Yet can its true nature be expressed and experienced while with the body? That is the question you ask, and it drives to the very reason and purpose of life itself. For if life with the body is nothing more than a prison or a limitation, then what good can come of it? And what can be its function, much less its justification?
Yes, I suppose that is what I'm asking, and I ask it on behalf of all beings everywhere who have felt the awful constrictions of the human experience. All my life, I've been deeply frustrated by the world's inability to let me love everyone in exactly the way I've wanted to. When I was young, it was about not talking to strangers, not saying things inappropriately. I remember once walking down a street with my father. We came across a poor man begging for coins. I immediately felt sorry for this man and wanted to give him some of the pennies in my pocket. My father stopped me, brushed me past. "Trash," he said. "That's just trash." That was my father's label for all those who did not live up to his definitions of what it meant to be humans of worth. Later, I remember an experience of my older brother, who was no longer living with us, not being allowed into the house on Christmas Eve because of some argument he'd had with my father. I loved my brother and wanted him to be with us that night, but my father stopped him on the front porch and barred him from entering the home. My mother was devastated. It was her son from a previous marriage, and I was simply mystified. How could we not love or want my brother on Christmas Eve simply because of an argument? What kind of disagreement could be so bad that it would be allowed to ruin Christmas, when even wars were suspended for a 24-hour truce? This my little 7-year-old heart begged to know. As I grew older, I learned that it was not just anger that stopped the love from flowing, but also fear. That was why we often talked to strangers, but not just when we were defenseless children. Also when we were adults. I learned that it was just not okay to openly and eagerly meet and greet strangers, and that there were certain etiquettes to be followed with people to whom you had just been introduced, none of which made sense to me. I wanted to know everything about that new person, and I wanted them to know everything about me. But no, the rules said you had to wait. And now in my adult life, when sexuality enters into it, I've learned that the rules are even more rigid and limiting, and I still don't get it. I find that I just want to love and be loved. That I just want to love everyone in whatever way feels natural to me, in whatever way feels good. Yet society has its rules and regulations about all this. And so rigid are they that even if the other person who's involved agrees to an experience, if society doesn't agree, those two lovers are called wrong and are thus doomed. Now, what is that? What is that all about?
Well, you've said it yourself. Fear. It's all about fear.
Yes, but are these fears justified? Aren't these restrictions and constrictions only appropriate given the behaviors of our race? A man meets a younger woman, falls in love or in lust with her, and leaves his wife, for instance. I use only one example. So there she is, left with the kids and no employment skills at 39 or 43, or worse yet, left high and dry at 64 by a 68-year-old man who's become enamored of a woman younger than his daughter.
Is it your supposing that the man you described has ceased to love his 64-year-old wife?
Well, he sure acts like it.
No, it is not his wife he does not love and seeks to escape. It is the limitations he feels placed on him.
Oh, nonsense. It's lust, pure and simple. It's an old geezer simply trying to recapture his youth, wanting to be with a younger woman, unable to curb his childish appetites and keep his promise to the partner who has remained with him through all the tough and lean years.
Of course, you've described it perfectly. Yet nothing you have said has changed a thing that I have said. In virtually every case, this man has not stopped loving his wife. It is the limitations his wife places on him, or those placed on him by the younger woman, who will have nothing to do with him if he stays with his wife, that creates the rebellion. The point I'm trying to make is that the soul will always rebel at limitation of any kind. That is what has sparked every revolution in the history of humankind. Not just the revolution which causes a man to leave his wife, or a wife to suddenly leave her husband, which, by the way, also happens.
Surely you're not arguing for the complete abolition of behavioral limitations of any kind. That would be behavioral anarchy, social chaos. Surely you're not advocating people having affairs, or, take my breath away, open marriage.
I do not advocate or fail to advocate anything. I am not for or against anything. The human race keeps trying to make me a for or against kind of God, and I am not that. I merely observe what is so. I simply watch you create your own systems of right and wrong, for and against, and I look to see whether your current ideas about that serve you, given what you say you choose and desire as a species and as individuals. Now to the question of open marriage. I am not for or against open marriage. Whether you are or not depends upon what you decide you want in and out of your marriage. And your decision about that creates who you are with regard to the experience you call marriage. For it is, as I have told you, every act is an act of self-definition. When making any decision, it is important to make sure the right question is being answered. The question with regard to so-called open marriage, for instance, is not, shall we have an open marriage where sexual contact by both parties with persons outside the marriage is allowed? The question is, who am I and who are we with regard to the experience called marriage? The answer to that question will be found in the answer to life's largest question, who am I, period, with regard to anything, in relationship to anything. Who am I and who do I choose to be? As I have said repeatedly throughout this dialogue, the answer to that question is the answer to every question.
God, that frustrates me. Because the answer to that question is so broad and so general that it answers no other question at all. According to these books, according to what you seem to be saying in this dialogue, I am love. That is who I really am.
Excellent. You have learned. That is correct. You are love. Love is all there is. So you are love. I am love. And there is nothing which is not love.
What about fear?
Fear is that which you are not. Fear is false evidence appearing real. Fear is the opposite of love, which you have created in your reality so that you may know experientially that which you are. This is what is true in the relative world of your existence. In the absence of that which you are not, that which you are is not.
Yes, we've been through this a number of times now in our dialogue. But it feels as though you have evaded my complaint. I said that the answer to the question of who you are, which is love, is so broad as to render it a non-answer. It is no answer at all to almost any other question. You say it is the answer to every question, and I say it's not the answer to any, much less to one as specific as, should our marriage be an open marriage?
If that is true for you, it is because you do not know what love is.
Does anybody? The human race has been trying to figure that one out since the beginning of time.
Which does not exist.
Which does not exist. Yes, I know. It's a figure of speech.
Let me see if I can find, using your figures of speech, some words and some ways to explain what love is.
Super, that'd be great.
The first word that comes to mind is unlimited. That which is love is unlimited.
Well, we're right back where we started from when we opened this subject. We're going around in circles.
Circles are good. Don't berate them. Keep circling around the question. Circling is okay. Repeating is okay. Revisiting, restating is okay.
I sometimes get impatient.
Sometimes that's pretty funny.
Okay. Go on with what you were saying.
Love is that which is unlimited. There is no beginning and no end to it. No before and no after. Love always was, always is, and always will be. So love is also always. It's the always reality. Now we get back to another word we used before, freedom. For if love is unlimited and always, then love is free. Love is that which is perfectly free. Now in the human reality, you will find that you always seek to love and to be loved. You will find that you will always yearn for that love to be unlimited, and you will find that you will always wish you could be free to express it. You will seek freedom, unlimitedness, and eternality in every experience of love. You may not always get it, but that is what you will seek. You will seek this because this is what love is. And at some deep place, you know that, because you are love. And through the expression of love, you are seeking to know and to experience who and what you are. You are life expressing life, love expressing love, God expressing God. All these words are therefore synonymous. Think of them as the same thing. God, life, love, unlimited, eternal, free. Anything which is not one of these things is not any of these things. You are all of those things, and you will seek to experience yourself as all of these things sooner or later.
What does that mean, sooner or later?
It depends on when you get over your fear. As I've said, fear is false evidence appearing real. It is that which you are not. You will seek to experience that which you are when you are through experiencing that which you are not.
Who wants to experience fear?
Nobody wants to. You're taught to. A child experiences no fear. He thinks he can do anything. Nor does a child experience lack of freedom.
She thinks she can love anyone, nor does a child experience lack of life. Children believe they will live forever, and people who act like children think nothing can hurt them. Nor does a child know any ungodly things, until that child is taught ungodly things by grown-ups. And so children run around naked and hug everyone, thinking nothing of it. Adults could only do the same thing.
Well, children do so with the beauty of innocence. Adults can't get back to that innocence, because when adults get naked, there's always that sex thing.
Yes, and of course, God forbid that sex thing be innocent and freely experienced.
Well, actually, God did forbid it. Adam and Eve were perfectly happy running around naked in the Garden of Eden until Eve ate of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and then you condemned us to our present state, for we are all guilty of that original sin.
I did no such thing.
I know. But I had to give organized religion a shot here.
Try to avoid that if you can.
Yes, I should. Organized religionists have very little sense of humor.
There you go again.
Sorry.
As I was saying, you will strive as a species to experience a love that is unlimited, eternal, and free. The institution of marriage has been your attempt at creating eternality. With it, you agreed to become partners for life, but this did little to produce a love which was unlimited and free.
Why not? If the marriage is freely chosen, isn't it an expression of freedom? And to say that you are going to demonstrate your love sexually with no one else but your spouse is not a limitation, it's a choice. And a choice is not a limitation, it's the exercise of freedom.
So long as that continues to be the choice, yes.
Well, it has to be. That was the promise.
Yes, and that's where the trouble begins.
Help me here.
Look, there may come a time when you want to experience a high degree of specialness in the relationship. Not that one person is more special to you than another, but that the way you choose to demonstrate with one person the depth of love you have for all people and for life itself is unique to that person alone. Indeed, the way you now demonstrate love to each person you do love is unique. You demonstrate your love to no two people in exactly the same way, because you are a creature and a creator of originality. Everything you create is original. It is not possible for any thought, word, or action to be duplicative. You cannot duplicate. You can only originate. You know why no two snowflakes are alike? Because it is impossible for them to be. Creation is not duplication, and the creator can only create. That is why no two snowflakes are alike. No two people are alike. No two thoughts are alike. No two relationships are alike. And no two of anything are alike. The universe and everything in it exists in singular form, and there truly is nothing else like it.
And this is the divine dichotomy again. Everything is singular, yet everything is one.
Exactly. Each finger on your hand is different, yet it is all the same hand. The air in your house is the air that is everywhere, yet the air from room to room is not the same, but feels markedly different. It is the same with people. All people are one, yet no two people are alike. You could not therefore love two people in the same way, even if you tried, and you would never want to, because love is a unique response to that which is unique. So when you demonstrate your love for one person, you are doing so in a way in which you cannot do so with another. Your thoughts, words, and actions, your responses, are literally impossible to duplicate, one of a kind, just as is the person for whom you have these feelings. If the time has come when you have desired this special demonstration with one person alone, then choose it, as you say. Announce it and declare it. Yet make your declaration an announcement moment to moment of your freedom, not your ongoing obligation. For true love is always free. An obligation cannot exist in the space of love. Do you see your decision to express your love in a particular way with only one particular other as a sacred promise, never to be broken? The day may come when you will experience that promise as an obligation, and you will resent it. Yet if you see this decision not as a promise, made only once, but as a free choice made over and over, that day of resentment will never come. Remember this, there's only one sacred promise, and that is to tell and live your truth. All other promises are forfeitures of freedom, and that can never be sacred. For freedom is who you are. If you forfeit freedom, you forfeit yourself. And that is not a sacrament. That is a blasphemy.
So are you saying we should never make promises? That we should never promise anything to anyone?
As most of you are now living your life, there's a lie built into every promise. The lie is that you can know now how you will feel about a thing and what you will want to do about that thing on any given tomorrow. You cannot know this if you are living your life as a reactive being, which most of you are. Only if you are living life as a creative being can your promise not contain a lie. Creative beings can know how they are going to feel about a thing at any time in the future, because creative beings create their feelings rather than experiencing them. Until you can create your future, you cannot predict your future. Until you can predict your future, you cannot promise anything truthfully about it. Yet even one who both creates and predicts her future has the authority and the right to change. Change is a fundamental right of all creatures. Indeed, it is more than a right, for a right is that which is given. Change is that which is. Change is. That which is change. You are. You cannot be given this. You are this. Now, since you are change, and since change is the only thing constant about you, You cannot truthfully promise to always be the same.
Do you mean that there are no constants in the universe? Are you saying that there is nothing which remains constant in all of creativity?
The process you call life is a process of recreation. All of life is constantly recreating itself anew in each moment of now. In this process, identicality is impossible, since if a thing is identical, it is not changed at all. Yet while identicality is impossible, similarity is not. Similarity is the result of the process of change, producing a remarkably similar version of what went before. When creativity reaches a high level of similarity, you call that identicality. And from the gross perspective of your limited viewpoint, it is. Therefore, in human terms, there appears to be great constancy in the universe. That is, things seem to look alike and act alike and react alike. You see consistency here. This is good, for it provides a framework within which you may consider and experience your existence in the physical, viewed from the perspective of all life, that which is physical and that which is non-physical. The appearance of constancy disappears. Things are experienced as they really are, constantly changing.
You're saying that sometimes the changes are so delicate, so subtle, that from our less discerning viewpoint they appear the same, sometimes exactly the same, when in fact they're not.
Precisely.
There are no such things as identical twins.
Exactly, you have captured it perfectly.
And yet we can recreate ourselves anew in a form sufficiently similar to produce the effect of constancy.
Yes.
And we can do this in human relationships, in terms of who we are and how we behave.
Yes, although most of you find this very difficult. Because true constancy, as opposed to the appearance of constancy, violates the natural law, as we have just learned. And it takes a great master to even create the appearance of identicality. A master overcomes every natural tendency, remember? The natural tendency is toward change, to show up as identicality. In truth, he cannot show up identically from moment to moment, but she can show up sufficiently similar to create the appearance of being identical.
Yet people who are not masters show up identically all the time. I know people whose behaviors and appearances are so predictable you can stake your life on them.
Yet it takes great effort to do this intentionally. The master is one who creates a high level of similarity, which you call consistency, intentionally. A student is one who creates consistency without necessarily intending to. A person who always reacts the same way to certain circumstances, for instance, will often say, "I couldn't help it." A master would never say that. Even if a person's reaction produces an admirable behavior, something for which they receive praise, their response will often be, "Well, it was nothing. It was automatic, really. Anybody would do it." A master would never do that either. A master, therefore, is a person who, quite literally, knows what he is doing. She also knows why. People not operating at levels of mastery often know neither.
This is why it's so difficult to keep promises.
It is one reason. As I said, until you can predict your future, you cannot promise anything truthfully. A second reason people find it difficult to keep promises is that they come into conflict with authenticity.
What do you mean?
I mean that their evolving truth about a thing differs from what they said their truth would always be. And so they are deeply conflicted. What to obey, my truth or my promise?
Advice?
I've given you this advice before. Betrayal of yourself in order not to betray another is betrayal nonetheless. It is the highest betrayal.
But this would lead to promises being broken all over the place. Nobody's word on anything would matter. Nobody could be counted on for anything.
Oh, so you've been counting on others to keep their word, have you? No wonder you've been so miserable.
Who says I've been miserable?
You mean this is the way you look and act when you've been happy?
Okay, all right, so I've been miserable. Sometimes.
Oh, a great deal of the time. Even when you've had every reason to be happy, you've allowed yourself to be miserable, worrying about whether you'll be able to hold on to your happiness. And the reason you've even had to worry about this is that holding on to your happiness has depended to a large degree on other people keeping their word.
You mean that I don't have a right to expect, or at least hope, that other people will keep their word?
Why would you want such a right? The only reason that another person would not keep their word to you would be because they didn't want to.
Or they felt they couldn't, which is the same thing. And if a person did not want to keep his word to you, or for some reason felt he just couldn't, why on earth would you want him to? Do you really want someone to keep an agreement she does not want to keep? Do you really feel people should be forced to do things they don't feel they can do? Why would you want to force anyone to do anything against his will?
Well, try this for a reason. Because to let them get away with not doing what they said they were going to do would hurt me or my family.
So in order to avoid injury, you're willing to inflict injury.
I don't see how it injures another simply to ask him to keep his word.
Yet he must see it as injurious, or he would keep it willingly.
So I should suffer the injury, Or watch my family or children suffer the injury rather than injure the one who made a promise by simply asking that it be kept?
Do you really think that if you force another to keep a promise that you will have escaped injury? More damage has been done to others by persons leading lives of quiet desperation, that is, doing what they felt they had to do, than ever was done by persons freely doing what they wanted to do. When you give a person freedom, you remove danger. You don't increase it. Yes, letting someone off the hook on a promise or commitment made to you may look like it will hurt you in the short run, but it will never damage you in the long run, because when you give the other person their freedom, you give yourself freedom as well. And so now you are free of the agonies and the sorrows, the attacks on your dignity and your self-worth that inevitably follow when you force another person to keep a promise to you that he or she does not want to keep. The longer damage will far outweigh the shorter, as nearly everyone who has tried to hold another person to their word has discovered.
Does this same idea hold true in business as well? How could the world do business that way?
Actually, it is the only sane way to do business. The problem right now in your whole society is that it is based on force, legal force, which you call the force of law, and too often physical force, which you call the world's armed forces. You have not yet learned to use the art of persuasion.
If not by legal force, the force of law through the courts, how would we persuade businesses to meet the terms of their contract or keep their agreements?
Given your current cultural ethic, there may not be another way. Yet with the change of cultural ethic, the way you are now seeking to keep businesses, and individuals for that matter, from breaking their agreements will appear very primitive.
Can you explain?
You are now using force to make sure agreements are kept. When your cultural ethic is changed to include an understanding that you are all one, you would never use force, because that would only damage yourself. You would not slap your left hand with your right.
Even if the left hand was strangling you?
That is another thing which would not happen. You would stop strangling yourself. You would stop biting your nose to spite your face. You would stop breaking your agreements. And of course, your agreements themselves would be much different. You would not agree to give something of value which you have to another only if they had something of value to give you in exchange. You would never hold back on giving or sharing something until you got what you call a just return. You would give and share automatically, and so there would be far fewer contracts to break, because a contract is about the exchange of goods and services, whereas your life would be about the giving of goods and services, regardless of what exchange may or may not take place. Yet in this kind of one-way giving would your salvation be found, for you would have discovered what God has experienced, that what you give to another, you give to yourself. What goes around comes around.
All things that proceed from you return to you.
Sevenfold. So there is no need to worry about what you are going to get back. There is only a need to worry about what you are going to give out. Life is about creating the highest quality giving, not the highest quality getting. You keep forgetting, but life is not for getting. Life is for giving. And in order to do that, you need to be forgiving to others, especially those who do not give you what you thought you were going to get. This switch will entail a complete shift of your cultural story. Today, what you call success in your culture is measured largely by how much you get, by how much honor and money and power and possessions you amass. In the new culture, success will be measured by how much you cause others to amass. The irony will be that the more you cause others to amass, the more you will amass effortlessly. with no contracts, no agreements, no bargaining or negotiating or lawsuits or courts which force you to give to each other what was promised. In the future economy, you will not do things for personal profit, but for personal growth, which will be your profit. Yet profit in material terms will come to you as you become a bigger and grander version of who you really are. In those days and times, using force to coerce someone to give you something because they said they would will seem very primitive to you. If another person does not keep an agreement, you will simply allow them to walk their path, make their choices, and create their own experience of themselves. And whatever they have not given you, you will not miss, for you will know that there is more where that came from, and they are not your source of that, but you are.
Whoa, I've got it. But it feels like we've really gotten off the mark here. This whole discussion began with my asking you about love, and if human beings would ever allow themselves to express it without limitation. And that led to a question about open marriage, and suddenly we've gotten way off the mark here.
Not really. Everything we've talked about is pertinent. And this is a perfect lead-in to your questions about so-called enlightened or more highly evolved societies. Because in highly evolved societies, there is neither marriage nor business, nor, for that matter, any of the artificial social constructions you have created to hold your society together.
Yes, well, we'll get into that soon, but right now I just want to close down this subject. You said some intriguing things here. What all of it breaks down to is, as I get it, that most human beings can't keep promises, and so we shouldn't make them. That pretty much scuttles the institution of marriage.
I like your use of the word institution here. Most people experience that when they are in a marriage. They are in an institution.
Yes, it's either a mental institution or a penal institution, or at the very least, an institution of higher learning.
Exactly, precisely. That's how most people experience it.
Well, I was kidding along with you here, but I wouldn't say most people. There are still millions of people who love the institution of marriage and want to protect it.
I'll stand by the statement. Most people have a very difficult time with marriage and do not like what it does to them. Your worldwide divorce statistics prove this.
Are you saying that marriage should go?
I have no preference in the matter, only...
I know. Observations.
Bravo. You keep wanting to make me a god of preferences, which I am not. Thank you for trying to stop that.
Well, we've not only just scuttled marriage, we've also just scuttled religion.
It is true that religions could not exist if the whole human race understood that God doesn't have preferences, because a religion purports to be a statement of God's preferences.
And if you have no preferences, then religion must be a lie.
Well, that's a harsh word. I would call it a fiction. It's just something you made up.
Like we made up the fiction that God prefers us to be married?
Yes, I don't prefer anything of the sort. But I notice you do.
Why? Why do we prefer marriage if we know it is so difficult?
Because marriage was the only way you could figure out to bring foreverness or eternality into your experience of love. It was the only way a female could guarantee her support and survival, and the only way a male could guarantee the constant availability of sex and companionship. So a social convention was created. A bargain was struck. You give me this and I'll give you that. In this, it was very much like business. A contract was made, and since both parties needed to enforce the contract, it was said to be a sacred pact with God, who would punish those who broke it. Later, when that didn't work, you created man-made laws to enforce it. But even that hasn't worked. Neither the so-called laws of God nor the laws of man have been able to keep people from breaking their marriage vows.
How come?
Because those vows, as you have them normally constructed, run counter to the only law that matters.
Which is?
Natural law.
But it is the nature of things for life to express unity, oneness. Isn't that what I'm getting from all this? And marriage is our most beautiful expression of that. You know, what God has joined together, let no man put asunder, and all that.
Marriage, as most of you have practiced it, is not particularly beautiful, for it violates two of the three aspects of what is true about each human being by nature.
Will you go over it again? I think I'm just starting to pull this together.
Okay. Once more from the top. Who you are is love.
Mm-hmm.
What love is unlimited, eternal, and free.
Okay.
Therefore, that is what you are. That is the nature of who you are. You are unlimited, eternal, and free by nature. Now, any artificial social, moral, religious, philosophical, economic, or political construction which violates or subordinates your nature is an impingement upon your very self, and you will rail against it. What do you suppose gave birth to your own country? Was it not, give me liberty or give me death? Well, you've given up that liberty in your country, and you've given it up in your lives, and all for the same thing, security. You are so afraid to live, so afraid of life itself, that you've given up the very nature of your being in trade for security. The institution you call marriage is your attempt to create security, as is the institution called government. Actually, they are both forms of the same thing, artificial social constructions designed to govern each other's behavior.
Good grief, I never looked at it like that. I always thought that marriage was the ultimate announcement of love.
As you have imagined it, yes, but not as you have constructed it. As you have constructed it, it is the ultimate announcement of fear. If marriage allowed you to be unlimited, eternal, and free in your love, then it would be the ultimate announcement of love. As things are now, you become married in an effort to lower your love to the level of a promise or a guarantee. Marriage is an effort to guarantee that what is so now will always be so. If you didn't need this guarantee, you would not need marriage. And how do you use this guarantee? First, as a means of creating security, instead of creating security from that which is inside of you. And second, if that security is not forever forthcoming, as a means of punishing each other. For the marriage promise which has been broken can now form the basis of the lawsuit which has been opened. You have thus found marriage very useful, even if it is for all the wrong reasons. Marriage is also your attempt to guarantee that the feelings you have for each other you will never have for another, or at least that you will never express them with another in the same way.
Namely sexually.
Namely sexually. Finally, marriage as you have constructed it is a way of saying, this relationship is special. I hold this relationship above all others.
What's wrong with that?
Nothing. Not a question of right or wrong. Right and wrong do not exist. It's a question of what serves you, of what recreates you in the next grandest image of who you really are. And who you really are is a being who says, this one relationship, this single one right over here, is more special than any other. Then your construction of marriage allows you to do that perfectly. Yet you might find it interesting to notice that almost no one who is or has been recognized as a spiritual master is married.
Yeah, because masters are celibate. They don't have sex.
No, because masters cannot truthfully make the statement that your present construction of marriage seeks to make, that one person is more special to them than another. This is not a statement that a master makes. And it is not a statement that God makes. The fact is that your marriage vows, as you presently construct them, have you making a very ungodly statement. It is the height of irony that you feel this is the holiest of holy promises, for it is a promise that God would never make. Yet in order to justify your human fears, you have imagined a God who acts just like you. Therefore you speak of God's promise to his chosen people, and of covenants between God and those God loves in a special way. You cannot stand the thought of a God who loves no one in a way which is more special than any other. And so you create fictions about a God who only loves certain people for certain reasons. And you call these fictions religions. I call them blasphemies. For any thought that God loves one more than another is false. And any ritual which asks you to make the same statement is not a sacrament, but a sacrilege.
Oh my God, stop it, stop it. You're killing every good thought I ever had about marriage. This can't be God saying this. God would never say such things about religion and marriage.
Religion and marriage, the way you have constructed them, is what we are talking about here. You think that this talk is tough? I tell you this. You have bastardized the word of God in order to justify your fears and rationalize your insane treatment of each other. You will make God say whatever you need God to say in order to continue limiting each other, hurting each other, and killing each other in my name. Yea, you have invoked my name and waved my flag and carried crosses on your battlefields for centuries. All is proof that I love one people more than another, and would ask you to kill to prove it. Yet I tell you this. My love is unlimited and unconditional. That is the one thing you cannot hear, the one truth you cannot abide, the one statement you cannot accept, for its all-inclusiveness destroys not only the institution of marriage, as you have constructed it, but every one of your religions and governmental institutions as well. For you have created a culture based on exclusion, and supported it with the cultural myth of a God who excludes. Yet the culture of God is based on inclusion. In God's love, everyone is included. Into God's kingdom, everyone is invited. And this truth is what you call a blasphemy. And you must, because if it is true, then everything you've created in your life is false. All human conventions and all human constructions are faulty to the degree that they are not unlimited, eternal, and free.
How can anything be faulty if there's no such thing as right and wrong?
Thing is only faulty to the degree that it does not function to suit its purpose. If a door does not open and close, you would not call the door wrong. You would merely say its installation or operation is faulty, because it does not serve its purpose. Whatever you construct in your life, in your human society, which does not serve your purpose in becoming human, is faulty. It is a faulty construction.
And just for a review, my purpose in becoming human is
to decide and to declare, to create and to express, to experience and to fulfill who you really are. To recreate yourself anew in every moment in the grandest version of the greatest vision ever you had about who you really are. That is your purpose in becoming human, and that is the purpose of all life.
So where does that leave us? We've destroyed religion, we've dissed marriage, we've denounced governments. Where are we then?
First of all, we've destroyed, dissed, and denounced nothing. If a construction you've created is not working and not producing what you wanted it to produce, to describe that condition is not to destroy, diss, or denounce the construction. Try to remember the difference between judgment and observation.
Well, I'm not going to argue with you here, but a lot of what you've just said has sounded pretty judgmental to me.
We are constricted here by the awful limitation of words. There are really so few of them. And so we have to use the same ones over and over again, even when they don't always convey the same meaning or the same kinds of thoughts. You say that you love banana splits, but you surely don't mean the same thing as when you say you love each other. So you see, you have very few words really to describe how you're feeling. In communicating with you in this way, in the way of words, I've allowed myself to experience those limitations. And I will concede that because some of this language has also been used by you when you are being judgmental, it would be easy to conclude that I'm being judgmental when I use them. Let me assure you here that I am not. Throughout this whole dialogue, I have simply been trying to tell you how to get where you say you want to go, and to describe as impactfully as possible what is blocking your way, what is stopping you from going there. Now, with regard to religion, you say where you want to go is to a place where you can truly know God and love God. I'm simply observing that your religions do not take you there. Your religions have made God the great mystery and caused you not to love God, but to fear God. Religion has done little as well to cause you to change your behaviors. You're still killing each other, condemning each other, making each other wrong. And in fact, it is your religions which have been encouraging you to do so. So with regard to religion, I merely observe that you say you want it to take you to one place and it is taking you to another. Now you say you want marriage to take you to the land of eternal bliss, or at least to some reasonable level of peace, security, and happiness. As with religion, your invention called marriage does well with this in the early going when you are first experiencing it. Yet as with religion, the longer you reside in the experience, the more it takes you where you say you don't want to go. Nearly half of the people who become married dissolve their marriage through divorce, and of those who stay married, many are desperately unhappy. Your unions of bliss lead you to bitterness, anger, and regret. Some, and not a small number, take you to a place of outright tragedy. You say you want your governments to ensure peace, freedom, and domestic tranquility, and I observe that as you have devised them, they do none of this. Rather, your governments lead you to war, increasing lack of freedom, and domestic violence and upheaval. You haven't been able to solve the basic problems of simply feeding and keeping people healthy and alive, much less meet the challenge of providing them with equal opportunity. Hundreds of you die every day of starvation on a planet where thousands of you throw away each day enough food to feed nations. You can't handle the simplest task of getting the leftovers from the haves to the have-nots, much less resolve the issue of whether you even want to share your resources more equitably. But these are not judgments. These are things which are observably true about your society.
Why? Why is it like this? Why have we made so little progress in conducting our own affairs these past many years?
Years? Try centuries.
Okay, centuries.
It has to do with the first human cultural myth, and with all the other myths which necessarily follow. Until they change, nothing else will change. For your cultural myths inform your ethics, and your ethics create your behaviors. Yet the problem is that your cultural myth is at variance with your basic instinct.
What do you mean?
Your first cultural myth is that human beings are inherently evil. This is the myth of original sin. The myth holds that not only is your basic nature evil, you were born that way. The second cultural myth, arising necessarily out of the first, is that it is the fittest who survive. The second myth holds that some of you are strong and some of you are weak, and that to survive, you have to be one of the strong. You will do all that you can to help your fellow man, but if and when it comes down to your own survival, you will take care of yourself first. You will even let others die. Indeed, you will go further than that. If you think you have to, in order for you and yours to survive, you will actually kill others, presumably the weak, thereby defining you as the fittest. Some of you say that this is your basic instinct. It is called the survival instinct. And it is this cultural myth that has formed much of your societal ethic, creating many of your group behaviors. Yet your basic instinct is not survival, but rather fairness, oneness, and love. This is the basic instinct of all sentient beings everywhere. It is your cellular memory. It is your inherent nature. Thus has exploded your first cultural myth. You are not basically evil. You are not born in original sin. If your basic instinct was survival, and if your basic nature was evil, you would never move instinctively to save a child from falling, a man from drowning, or anyone from anything. And yet, when you act on your basic instincts and display your basic nature and don't think about what you are doing, this is exactly how you behave, even at your own peril. Thus, your basic instinct cannot be survival, and your basic nature is clearly not evil. Your instinct and your nature is to reflect the essence of who you are, which is fairness, oneness, and love. Looking at the social implications of this, it is important to understand the difference between fairness and equality. It is not a basic instinct of all sentient beings to seek equality or to be equal. Indeed, exactly the opposite is true. The basic instinct of all living things is to express uniqueness, not sameness. Creating a society in which two beings are truly equal is not only impossible, but undesirable. Societal mechanisms seeking to produce true equality, in other words, economic, political, and social sameness, work against, not for, the grandest idea and the highest purpose, which is that each being will have the opportunity to produce the outcome of its grandest desire, and thus truly recreate itself anew. Equality of opportunity is what is required for this, not equality in fact. This is called fairness. Equality in fact, produced by exterior forces and laws, would eliminate, not produce, fairness. It would eliminate the opportunity for true self-recreation, which is the highest goal of enlightened beings everywhere. And what would create freedom of opportunity? Systems that would allow society to meet the basic survival needs of every individual, freeing all beings to pursue self-development and self-creation rather than self-survival. In other words, systems that imitate the true system called life, in which survival is guaranteed. Now, because self-survival is not an issue in enlightened societies, these societies would never allow one of its members to suffer if there were enough for all. In these societies, self-interest and mutual best interest are identical. No society created around a myth of inherent evilness or survival of the fittest could possibly achieve such understanding.
Yes, I see this, and this cultural myth question is something I want to explore along with the behaviors and ethics of more advanced civilizations later, in greater detail. But I'd like to double back one last time and resolve the questions I started out with here. One of the challenges of talking with you is that your answers lead us in such interesting directions I sometimes forget where I began. But in this case, I haven't. We were discussing marriage, and we were discussing love and its requirements.
Well, love has no requirements. That's what makes it love. If your love for another carries requirements, then it's not love at all, but some counterfeit version. That is what I've been trying to tell you here. It is what I have been saying in a dozen different ways with every question you've asked here. Within the context of marriage, for example, there is an exchange of vows that love does not require. Yet you require them because you do not know what love is, and so you make each other promise what love would never ask.
Then you are against marriage.
I am against nothing. I am simply describing what I see. You can redesign your social construction called marriage so that it does not ask what love would never ask, but rather declares what only love could declare.
In other words, change the marriage vows.
More than that. Change the expectations on which the vows are based. These expectations are going to be difficult to change because they are your cultural heritage. They arise, in turn, from your cultural myths.
Here we go again with the cultural myths routine. What's up with you about this?
I'm hoping to point you in the right direction here. I see where you say you want to go with your society, and I am hoping to find human words in human terms that can direct you there. May I give you an example?
Please.
One of your cultural myths about love is that it's about giving rather than receiving. This has become a cultural imperative, and yet it is driving you crazy and causing more damage than you could ever imagine. It gets and keeps people in bad marriages. It causes relationships of all kinds to be dysfunctional. Yet no one, not your parents to whom you look for guidance, not your clergy to whom you look for inspiration, not your psychologists and psychiatrists to whom you look for clarity, not even your artists and writers to whom you look for intellectual leadership, will dare to challenge the prevailing cultural myth. And so, songs are written, stories are told, movies are made, guidance is given, prayers are offered, and parenting is done which perpetuates the myth. Then you're all left to live up to it. And you can't. Yet it is not you that is the problem. It is the myth.
Love is not about giving rather than receiving?
No.
It isn't?
No, it never has been.
But you said yourself just a moment ago that love has no requirements. You said that's what makes it love.
And so it is.
Well, that sure sounds like giving rather than receiving to me.
Then you need to reread Chapter 8 of Book 1. Everything I'm alluding to here, I've explained to you there. This dialogue was meant to be read in sequence and to be considered as a whole.
I know, but for those who nevertheless came to these words now without having read Book 1, could you explain, please, what you're getting at here? Because frankly, even I could use the review, and I think I now understand this stuff.
Okay, here goes. Everything you do for yourself. This is true because you and all others are one. What you do for another, you therefore do for you. What you fail to do for another, you fail to do for you. What is good for another is good for you. And what is bad for another is bad for you. This is the most basic truth, yet it is the truth you most frequently ignore. Now, when you are in a relationship with another, that relationship has only one purpose. It exists as a vehicle for you to decide and to declare, to create and to express, to experience and to fulfill your highest notion of who you really are. Now, if who you really are is a person who is kind and considerate, caring and sharing, compassionate and loving, then when you are being these things with others, you are giving yourself the grandest experience for which you came into the body. This is why you took a body. because only in the physical realm of the relative could you know yourself as these things. In the realm of the absolute from which you have come, this experience of knowing is impossible. All these things I've explained to you in far greater detail in Book 1. Now, if who you really are is a being who does not love the self, and who allows the self to be abused, damaged, and destroyed by others, then you will continue behaviors which allow you to experience that. Yet if you really are a person who is kind and considerate, caring and sharing, compassionate and loving, you will include yourself among the people with whom you are being these things. Indeed, you will start with yourself. You will put yourself first in these matters. Everything in life depends on what you are seeking to be. If, for instance, you are seeking to be one with all others, that is, if you are seeking to experience a conceptualization you already know to be true, you will find yourself behaving in a very specific way, a way which allows you to experience and demonstrate your oneness. And when you do certain things as a result of this, you will not experience that you are doing something for someone else, but rather that you are doing it for yourself. The same will be true no matter what you are seeking to be. If you are seeking to be love, you will do loving things with others, not for others, but with others. Notice the difference. Catch the nuance. You will be doing loving things with others, for yourself, so that you can actualize and experience your grandest idea about yourself and who you really are. In this sense, it is impossible to do anything for another, for every act of your own volition is literally just that, an act. You are acting, that is, creating and playing a role. Except you're not pretending, you are actually being it. You are a human being, and what you are being is decided and chosen by you. Your Shakespeare said it. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. He also said to be or not to be, that is the question. And he also said, to thine own self be true, and it must follow as the night the day, thou canst not then be false to any man. When you are true to yourself, when you do not betray yourself, then when it looks like you are giving, you will know you are actually receiving. You are literally giving yourself back to yourself. You cannot truly give to another for the simple reason that there is no other. If we are all one, then there is only you.
You know, this sometimes seems like a semantic trick, a way to change the words around, to alter their meaning.
It's not a trick, but it is magic. And it's not about changing words to alter meaning, but changing perceptions to alter experience. Your experience of everything is based on your perceptions, and your perception is based on your understanding, and your understanding is based on your myths, that is, on what you have been told. Now I tell you this, your present cultural myths have not served you. They have not taken you where you say you want to go. Either you are lying to yourself about where you say you want to go, or you are blind to the fact that you're not getting there. Not as an individual, not as a country, not as a species or a race.
Are there other species which are?
Oh, yes, decidedly.
Okay, I've waited long enough. Now tell me about them.
Soon, very soon. But first I want to tell you about how you can alter your invention called marriage so that it takes you closer to where you say you want to go. Do not destroy it. Do not do away with it. Alter it.
Yes, well, I do want to know about that. I do want to know whether there is any way that human beings will ever be allowed to express true love. So I end this section of our dialogue where I began it, I guess. What limits shall we, indeed, what limits, some would say, must we place on that expression?
None. No limits at all. And that is what your marriage vows should state.
That's amazing. Because that's exactly what my marriage vows with Nancy did state.
I know.
When Nancy and I decided to get married, I suddenly felt inspired to write a whole new set of marriage vows.
I know.
And Nancy joined me. She agreed that we couldn't possibly exchange the vows that had become traditional at weddings.
I know.
We sat down and created new marriage vows that defied the cultural imperative, as you might put it.
Yes, you did. I was very proud.
And as we were writing them, as we put the vows down on paper for the minister to read, I truly believe we were both inspired.
Of course you were.
Do you mean that?
What do you think? I only come to you when you're writing books?
Wow.
Yes, wow. So why don't you put those marriage vows here?
Huh?
Go ahead. You've got a copy of them. Put them right here.
Well, we didn't create them to share with the world.
When this dialogue began, you didn't think any of it would be shared with the world. Go ahead. Put them in.
Well, it's just that I don't want people to think that I'm saying we've written the perfect marriage vows.
All of a sudden, you're worried about what people will think?
Come on, you know what I mean.
Look, no one says these are the perfect marriage vows.
Well, okay.
They're just the best anyone on your planet's come up with so far.
Hey.
I'm just kidding. Let's lighten up here, huh? Go ahead. Put the vows in. I'll take responsibility for them. And people will love them. It'll give them an idea of what we're talking about here. Why, you may even want to invite others to take these vows, which are not really vows at all, but marriage statements.
Well, okay. Here's what Nancy and I said to each other when we got married, thanks to the inspiration we received. Why don't you be the minister?
Okay. Neil and Nancy had not come here tonight to make a solemn promise or to exchange a sacred vow. Nancy and Neil have come here to make public their love for each other, to give notice to their truth, to declare their choice to live and partner and grow together, out loud and in your presence, out of their desire that we will all come to feel a very real and intimate part of their decision, and thus make it even more powerful. They've also come here tonight in the further hope that their ritual of bonding will help bring us all closer together. If you are here tonight with a spouse or a partner, let this ceremony be a reminder, a rededication of your own loving bond. We'll begin by asking the question, why get married? Neil and Nancy have answered this question for themselves, and they've told me their answer. Now I want to ask them one more time so that they can be sure of their answer, certain of their understanding, and firm in their commitment to the truth they share.
And here the minister gets 2 red roses from the table.
This is the ceremony of roses, in which Nancy and Neil share their understandings and commemorate that sharing. Now, Nancy and Neil, you have told me it is your firm understanding that you are not entering into this marriage for reasons of security, that the only real security is not in owning or possessing, nor in being owned or possessed, not in demanding or expecting, and not even in hoping that what you think you need in life will be supplied by the other, but rather in knowing that everything you need in life, all the love, all the wisdom, all the insight, all the power, all the knowledge, all the understanding, all the nurturing, all the compassion, and all the strength resides within you. And that you are not each marrying the other in hopes of getting these things, but in hopes of giving these gifts, that the other might have them in even greater abundance. Is that your firm understanding tonight?
It is.
It is. And Neil and Nancy, you have told me it is your firm understanding you are not entering into this marriage as a means of in any way limiting, controlling, hindering, or restricting each other from any true expression and honest celebration of that which is the highest and best within you, including your love of God, your love of life, your love of people, your love of creativity, your love of work, or any aspect of your being which genuinely represents you and brings you joy. Is that still your firm understanding tonight?
It is.
It is. Finally, Nancy and Neil, you have said to me that you do not see marriage as producing obligations, but rather as providing opportunities for growth, for full self-expression, for lifting your lives to their highest potential, for healing every false thought or small idea you ever had about yourself, and for ultimate reunion with God through the communion of your 2 souls. That this is truly a holy communion, a journey through life with one you love as an equal partner, sharing equally both the authority and the responsibilities inherent in any partnership, bearing equally what burdens there be, basking equally in the glories. Is that the vision you wish to enter into now?
It is.
It is.
I now give you these red roses, symbolizing your individual understandings of these earthly things, that you both know and agree how life will be with you in bodily form and within the physical structure called marriage. Give these roses now to each other as a symbol of your sharing of these agreements and understandings with love. Now please, each of you take this white rose. It is a symbol of your larger understandings, of your spiritual nature, and your spiritual truth. It stands for the purity of your real and highest self, and of the purity of God's love, which shines upon you now and always.
And here the minister gives Nancy the rose with my ring on the stem and gives me the rose with Nancy's ring on it.
What symbols do you bring as a reminder of the promises given and received today?
We each remove the rings from the stems, giving them to the minister, who holds them in her hand as she says,
A circle is the symbol of the sun and the earth and the universe. It is a symbol of holiness and of perfection and peace. It is also the symbol of the eternality of spiritual truth, love, and life, that which has no beginning and no end. And in this moment, Neil and Nancy choose for it to also be a symbol of unity, but not of possession, of joining, but not of restricting, of encirclement, but not of entrapment. For love cannot be possessed, nor can it be restricted, and the soul can never be entrapped. Now, Neil and Nancy, please take these rings you wish to give one to the other. Neil, please repeat after me. I, Neil, ask you, Nancy,
to
be my partner, my lover, my friend, and my wife.
be my partner, my lover, my friend, and my wife.
I announce and declare my intention to give you my deepest friendship and love.
I announce and declare my intention to give you my deepest friendship and love.
Not only when your moments are high,
Not only when your moments are high,
but when they are low.
but when they are low.
Not only when you remember clearly who you are,
Not only when you remember clearly who you are,
but when you forget.
but when you forget.
Not only when you are acting with love,
Not only when you are acting with love,
but when you are not.
but when you are not.
I further announce,
Before
God and those here present,
God and those here present,
that I will seek always to see the light of divinity within you,
that I will seek always to see the light of divinity within you,
and seek always to share
and seek always to share
the light of divinity within me,
the light of divinity within me,
even and especially
even and especially
in whatever moments of darkness may come.
in whatever moments of darkness may come.
It is my intention to be with you forever,
It is my intention to be with you forever
in a holy partnership of the
in a
soul,
holy partnership of the soul,
that we may do together God's work,
that we may do together God's work,
sharing all that is good within us,
sharing all that is good within us,
with all those whose lives we touch.
within all those whose lives we touch.
Nancy, do you choose to grant Neil's request that you be his wife?
I do.
Now, Nancy, please repeat after me. I, Nancy,
ask you, Neil,
to be my partner, my lover, my friend, and my husband.
to be my partner, my lover, my friend, and my husband.
I announce and declare my intention to give you my deepest friendship and love.
I announce and declare my intention to give you my deepest friendship and love.
Not only when your moments are high,
Not only when your moments are high,
but when they are low.
but when they are low.
Not only when you remember clearly who you are,
Not only when you remember clearly who you are,
but when you forget.
but when you forget.
Not only when you are acting with love,
Not only when you are acting with love,
but when you are not.
but when you are not.
I further announce,
I further announce
before God and those here present,
before God and those here present
that I will seek always to see the light of divinity within you,
that I will seek always to see the light of divinity within you,
and seek always to share
and seek always to share
the light of divinity within me,
the light of divinity within me,
even and especially
even and especially
in whatever moments of darkness may come.
in whatever moments of darkness may come.
It is my intention to be with you forever.
It is my intention to be with you forever.
In a holy partnership of the soul.
In a holy partnership of the soul.
That we may do together God's work.
That we may do together God's work.
Sharing all that is good within us.
Sharing all that is good within us.
With all those whose lives we touch.
With all those whose lives we touch.
Neil, do you choose to grant Nancy's request that you be her husband?
I do.
Please then, both of you, take hold of the rings you would give each other and repeat after me. With this ring.
With this ring.
With this ring.
I thee wed.
I thee wed.
I take now the ring you give me.
I take now the ring you give me.
And give it place upon my hand.
And give it place upon my hand.
That all may see and know.
That all may see and know.
Of my love for you.
Of my love for you.
We recognize with full awareness that only a couple can administer the sacrament of marriage to each other, and only a couple can sanctify it. Neither my church nor any power vested in me by the state can grant me the authority to declare what only two hearts can declare, and what only two souls can make real. And so now, inasmuch as you, Nancy, and you, Neil, have announced the truths that are already written in your hearts, and have witnessed the same in the presence of these your friends and the one living Spirit, we observe joyfully that you have declared yourself to be husband and wife. Let us now join in prayer. Spirit of love and life, out of this whole world, two souls have found each other. Their destinies shall now be woven into one design, and their perils and their joys shall not be known apart. Neil and Nancy, may your home be a place of happiness for all who enter it, a place where the old and the young are renewed in each other's company, a place for growing and a place for sharing, a place for music and a place for laughter, a place for prayer and a place for love. May those who are nearest to you be constantly enriched by the beauty and the bounty of your love for one another. May your work be a joy of your life that serves the world, and may your days be good and long upon the earth. Amen and amen.
I'm so touched by that. I'm so honored, so blessed to have found someone in my life who could say those words with me and mean them. Dear God, thank you for sending me Nancy.
You're a gift to her too, you know.
I hope so.
Trust me.
You know what I wish?
No, what?
I wish that all people could make those marriage statements. I wish people could cut them out or copy them and use them for their wedding. I bet we'd see the divorce rate plummet.
Some people would have a very hard time saying those vows, and many would have a hard time staying true to them.
I just hope that we can stay true to them. I mean, the problem with putting those words here is that now we have to live up to them.
You were not planning on living up to them?
Well, of course we were, but we're human, just like everybody else. Yet now if we fail, if we falter, if anything should happen to our relationship, or good grief, if we should ever choose to end it in its present form, all kinds of people are going to be disillusioned.
Nonsense. They'll know that you're being true to yourself. They'll know that you have made a later choice, a new choice. Remember what I told you in Book 1? Do not confuse the length of your relationship with its quality. You're not an icon, and neither is Nancy. And no one should put you there, and you should not put yourself there. Just be human. Just be fully human. If at some later point you and Nancy feel you wish to reform your relationship in a different way, you have a perfect right to do that. That is the point of this whole dialogue.
And it was the point of the statements we made.
Exactly. I'm glad that you see that.
Yes, I like those marriage statements, and I'm glad we put them in. It's a wonderful new way to begin a life together. No more asking the woman to promise to love, honor, and obey. It was self-righteous, self-inflated, self-serving men who demanded that.
You're right, of course.
And it was even more self-righteous and self-serving for men to claim that such male preeminence was God-ordained.
Again, you are right. I never ordained any such thing.
At last, marriage words which really are inspired by God. Words which make a chattel personal property out of no one. Words which speak the truth about love. Words which place no limitations but promise only freedom. Words to which all hearts can remain true.
There are those who will say, of course, anyone can keep vows which ask nothing of you. What will you say to that?
I will say it is much more difficult to free someone than to control them. When you control someone, you get what you want. When you free someone, they get what they want.
You will have spoken wisely.
I have a wonderful idea. I think we should make a little booklet out of those marriage statements, kind of a little prayer book for people to use on their wedding day. Could be a small little book. It would contain not only those words, but a whole ceremony and key observations about love and relationship from all 3 books in this dialogue, as well as some special prayers or meditations on marriage, which it turns out you're not against. I'm so happy because it started to sound for a minute as if you were anti-marriage.
How could I be against marriage? We are all married. We are married to each other, now and forevermore. We are united. We are one. Ours is the biggest marriage ceremony ever held. My vow to you is the grandest vow ever made. I will love you forever and free you for everything. My love will never bind you in any way, and because of this, you are bound to love me, for freedom to be who you are is your greatest desire and my greatest gift. Do you take me now to be your lawfully wedded partner and co-creator according to the highest laws of the universe?
I do. And do you take me now as your partner and co-creator?
I do, and I always have. Now and through all eternity, we are one. Amen.
And amen. When does the soul join the body?
When do you think?
When it chooses to.
Good.
But people want a more definitive answer. They want to know when life begins, life as they know it.
I understand.
So what is the signal? Is it the emergence of the body from the womb, the physical birth? Is it the moment of conception, the physical joining of the elements of physical life?
Life has no beginning because life has no end. Merely extends, creates new forms.
It must be like that globby material in those heated lava lamps that were so popular in the 60s. Remember that? The globs would lay in big, soft, round balls at the bottom, then rise from the heat, separating and forming new globs, shaping themselves as they rose, rejoining each other at the top, cascading together to form even larger globs of the all, and starting all over again. There were never any new globs in the tubes. It was all the same stuff, reforming itself into what looked like new and different stuff. The varieties were endless. It was fascinating to watch the process unfold over and over again.
That's a great metaphor. That's how it is with souls. The one soul, which is really all there is, reforms itself into smaller and smaller parts of itself. All the parts were there at the beginning. There are no new parts, merely portions of the all that always was, reforming itself into what looks like new and different parts.
There's a brilliant pop song written and performed by Joan Osborne that asks, what if God were one of us, just a slob like one of us? I'm going to have to ask her to change the lyric line to, what if God was one of us, just a glob like one of us?
That's very good. And you know, her song was a brilliant song. It pushed people's buttons all over the place. People couldn't stand the thought that I am no better than one of them.
That reaction is an interesting comment, not so much on God, but on the human race. If we consider it a blasphemy for God to be compared to one of us, what does that say about us?
What indeed?
Yet you are one of us. That's exactly what you've been saying here. So Joan was right.
She certainly was, profoundly right.
Well, I want to get back to my question. Can you tell us anything about when life as we know it starts? At what point does the soul enter the body?
The soul doesn't enter the body. The body is enveloped by the soul. Remember what I said before? The body does not house the soul. It is the other way around. Everything is always alive. There is no such thing as dead. There is no such state of being. That which is always alive simply shapes itself into a new form, a new physical form. That form is charged with living energy, the energy of life, always. Life, if you are calling life the energy that I am, is always there. It is never not there. Life never ends. So how can there be a point when life begins?
Come on, help me out here. You know what I'm trying to get at.
Yes, I do. You want me to enter the abortion debate.
Yes, I do. I admit it. I mean, I've got God here, and I have a chance to ask the monumental question. When does life begin?
And the answer is so monumental you can't hear it.
Try me again.
It never begins. Life never begins. Because life never ends. You want to get into biological technicalities so that you can make up a rule based on what you want to call God's law about how people should behave, then punish them if they do not behave that way.
What's wrong with that? That would allow us to kill doctors in the parking lots of clinics with impunity.
Yes, I understand. You have used me and what you have declared to be my laws as justification for all sorts of things through the years.
Oh, come on. Why won't you just say that terminating a pregnancy is murder?
You cannot kill anyone or anything.
No, but you can end its individuation, and in our language, that's killing.
You cannot stop the process wherein which a part of me individually expresses in a certain way without the part of me that is expressing in that way agreeing.
What? What are you saying?
I am saying that nothing happens against the will of God. Life and all that is occurring is an expression of God's will. Read that, your will, made manifest. I have said in this dialogue, your will is my will. That is because there is only one of us. Life is God's will, expressing perfectly. If something was happening against God's will, it couldn't happen. By definition of who and what God is, it couldn't happen. Do you believe that one soul can somehow decide something for another? Do you believe that as individuals you can affect each other in ways in which the other does not want to be affected? Such a belief would have to be based on the idea that you are separate from each other. Do you believe that you can somehow affect life in a way in which God does not want life to be affected? Such a belief would have to be based on an idea that you are separate from me. Both ideas are false. It is arrogant beyond measure for you to believe that you can affect the universe in a way with which the universe does not agree. You are dealing with mighty forces here, and some of you believe that you are mightier than the mightiest force. Yet you are not, nor are you less mighty than the mightiest force. You are the mightiest force. No more, no less. So let the force be with you.
Are you saying that I can't kill anybody without his or her permission? Are you telling me that at some higher level, everyone who has ever been killed has agreed to be killed?
You are looking at things in earthly terms and thinking of things in earthly terms, and none of this is going to make sense to you.
I can't help thinking in earthly terms. I am here, right now, on the earth.
I tell you this, you are in this world, but not of it.
So my earthly reality is not reality at all?
Did you really think it was?
I don't know.
You've never thought there's something larger going on here?
Well, yes, sure I have.
Well, this is what's going on. I'm explaining it to you.
Okay, I got it. So that means I guess I can just go out and kill anybody because I couldn't have done it anyway if they hadn't agreed.
In fact, the human race acts that way. It's interesting that you're having such a hard time with this, yet you're going around acting as if it were true anyway. Or worse yet, you are killing people against their will as if it didn't matter.
Well, of course it matters. It's just that what we want matters more. Don't you get it? In the moment we humans kill somebody, we're not saying that the fact that we've done that doesn't matter. It would be flippant to think that. It's just that what we want matters more.
I see. So it's easier for you to accept that it's okay to kill others against their will. This you can do with impunity. It's doing it because it is their will that you feel is wrong.
I never said that. That's not how humans think.
That isn't? Let me show you how hypocritical some of you are. You say it is okay to kill somebody against their will so long as you have a good and sufficient reason for wanting them dead, as in war, for instance, or an execution, or a doctor in the parking lot of an abortion clinic. Yet if the other person feels they have a good and sufficient reason for wanting themselves dead, you may not help them die. That would be assisted suicide, and that would be wrong.
Now you're making mock of me.
No, you are making mock of me. You are saying that I would condone your killing someone against his will, and that I would condemn your killing someone in accordance with his will. This is insane. Still, you not only fail to see the insanity, you actually claim that those who point out the insanity are the ones who are crazy. You are the ones who have your head on straight, and they are just troublemakers. Now, this is the kind of tortured logic with which you construct entire lives and complete theologies.
I never looked at it quite that way.
I tell you this, the time has come for you to look at things a new way. This is the moment of your rebirth, as an individual and as a society. You must recreate your world now before you destroy it with your insanities. Now listen to me. We are all one. There is only one of us. You are not separate from me, and you are not separate from each other. Everything we are doing in concert with each other. Our reality is a co-created reality. If you terminate a pregnancy, we terminate a pregnancy. Your will is my will. No individual aspect of divinity has power over any other aspect of divinity. It is not possible for one soul to affect another against its will. There are no victims and there are no villains. You cannot understand this from your limited perspective, but I am telling you it is so. There's only one reason to be, do, or have anything, as a direct statement of who you are. If who you are as an individual and as a society is who you choose and desire to be, there's no reason to change anything. If, on the other hand, you believe there's a grander experience waiting to be had, an even greater expression of divinity than the one currently manifesting, then move into that truth. Since all of us are co-creating, it may serve us to do what we can to show others the way that some parts of us wish to go. You can be a way shower, demonstrating the life that you'd like to create, and inviting others to follow your example. You might even say, I am the life and the way, follow me. But be careful. Some people have been crucified for making such statements.
Thank you. I'll heed the warning. I'll keep a low profile.
I can see that you're doing a real good job of that.
Well, when you say you're having a conversation with God, it's not easy to keep a low profile.
As others have discovered.
Which might be a good reason for me to keep my mouth shut.
It's a little late for that.
Well, whose fault is that?
I see what you mean.
It's okay. I forgive you.
You do?
Yes.
How can you forgive me?
Because I can understand why you did it. I understand why you came to me, started this dialogue. And when I understand why something was done, I can forgive all the complications that it may have caused or created.
That's interesting. Would that you could think of God as being so magnificent as you.
Touché.
You have an unusual relationship with me. In some ways you think you could never be as magnificent as me. And in other ways you think I cannot be as magnificent as you. Don't you find that interesting?
Fascinating.
Because you think we are separated. These imaginings would leave you if you thought that we were one. This is the main difference between your culture, which is a baby culture, really, a primitive culture, and the highly evolved cultures of the universe. The most significant difference is that in highly evolved cultures, all sentient beings are clear that there is no separation between themselves and what you call God.
They are also clear that there is no separation between themselves and others. They know that they are each having an individual experience of the whole.
Oh, good. Now you're going to get into the highly evolved societies of the universe. I've been waiting for this.
Yes, I think it's time we explored that.
But before we do, I simply must return one last time to the abortion issue. You're not saying here, are you, that because nothing can happen to the human soul against its will, it's okay to kill people? You're not condoning abortion or giving us a way out on this issue, are you?
I'm neither condoning nor condemning abortion, any more than I condone or condemn war. The people of every country think I condone the war they are fighting and condemn the war that their opponent is fighting. The people of every nation believe they have God on their side. Every cause assumes the same thing. Indeed, every person feels the same thing, or at least hopes it is true whenever any decision or choice is made. And do you know why all creatures believe God is on their side? Because I am. And all creatures have an intuitive knowing of this. This is just another way of saying, your will for you is my will for you. And that is just another way of saying, I have given you all free will. There is no free will if to exercise it in certain ways produces punishment. That makes a mockery of free will and renders it counterfeit. So with regard to abortion or war, buying that car or marrying that person or having sex or not having sex, doing your duty or not doing your duty, there is no such thing as right or wrong, and I have no preference in the matter. You are all in the process of defining yourselves. Every act is an act of self-definition. If you are pleased with how you have created yourself, if it serves you, you will continue doing so in that way. If you are not, you will stop. This is called evolution. The process is slow because as you evolve, you keep changing your ideas about what really serves you. You keep changing your concepts of pleasure. Remember what I said earlier? You can tell how highly a person or society has evolved by what that being or society calls pleasure. And I will add here, by what it declares to serve it. If it serves you to go to war and kill other beings, you will do so. If it serves you to terminate a pregnancy, you will do so. The only thing that changes as you evolve is your idea of what serves you. And that is based on what you think you are trying to do. If you are trying to get to Seattle, it will not serve you to head towards San Jose. It is not morally wrong to go to San Jose. It simply doesn't serve you. The question of what you are trying to do then becomes a question of prime importance, not just in your life in general, but in every moment of your life specifically, because it is in the moments of life that a life itself is created. All of this was covered in great detail in the beginning of our Holy Dialogue, which you have come to call Book 1. I'm repeating it here because you seem to need a reminder, or you would never have asked me your question on abortion. When you are preparing to have your abortion, therefore, or when you are preparing to smoke that cigarette, or when you are preparing to fry and eat that animal, and when you are preparing to cut that man off in traffic, whether the matter is large or small, whether the choice is major or minor, there is only one question to consider. Is this who I really am? Is this who I now choose to be? And understand this, no matter is inconsequential. There is a consequence to everything. The consequence is who and what you are. You are in the act of defining yourself right now. That is your answer to the abortion question. That is your answer to the war question. That is your answer to the smoking question and the meat-eating question and to every question about behavior you've ever had. Every act is an act of self-definition. Everything you think, say, and do declares, this is who I am. I want to tell you, my dearest children, that this matter of who you are and who you choose to be is of great importance, not only because it sets the tone of your experience, but because it creates the nature of mine. All of your life you have been told that God created you. I come now to tell you this: you are creating God. That is a massive rearrangement of your understanding, I know. And yet it is a necessary one if you are to go about the true work for which you came. This is holy work we are up to, you and I. This is sacred ground we walk. This is the path. In every moment, God expresses himself in, as, and through you. You are always at choice as to how God will be created now, and I will never take that choice from you, nor will I punish you for making the wrong choice. Yet you are not without guidance in these matters, nor will you ever be. Built into you is an internal guidance system that shows you the way home. This is the voice that speaks to you always of your highest choice, that places before you your grandest vision. All you need do is heed that voice and not abandon the vision. Throughout your history, I've sent you teachers. During every day and time have my messengers brought you glad tidings of great joy. Holy scriptures have been written and holy lives have been lived, that you might know of this eternal truth. You and I are one. Now again I send you scriptures. You are writing them right now. Now again I send you messengers, seeking to bring you the word of God. Will you listen to these words? Will you hear these messengers? Will you become one of them? That is the great question. That is the grand invitation. That is the glorious decision. The world awaits your announcement, and you make that announcement with your life lived. The human race has no chance to lift itself from its own lowest thoughts until you lift yourself to your own highest ideas. Those ideas expressed through you, as you create the template, set the stage, serve as a model for the next level of human experience. You are the life and the way. The world will follow you. You are not at choice in this matter. It is the only matter in which you have no free choice. It is simply the way it is. Your world will follow your idea about yourself. Ever it has been, ever it will be. First comes your thought about yourself, then follows the outer world of physical manifestation. What you think, you create. What you create, you become. What you become, you express. What you express, you experience. What you experience, you are. What you are, you think. The circle is complete. The holy work in which you are engaged has really just begun, for now at last you understand what you are doing. It is you who have caused yourself to know this. You who have caused yourself to care, and you do care now, more than ever before, about who you really are. For now at last you see the whole picture. Who you are, I am. You are defining God. I have sent you, a blessed part of me, into physical form that I might know myself experientially as all that I know myself to be conceptually. Life exists as a tool for God to turn concept into experience. It exists for you to do the same, for you are God doing this. I choose to recreate myself anew in every single moment. I choose to experience the grandest version of the greatest vision ever I had about who I am. I have created you so that you might recreate me. This is our holy work. This is our greatest joy. This is our very reason for being.
You know, I'm filled with awe and reverence at the reading of those words. Thanks for being here with me in this way. Thanks for being here with all of us.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here for me.
I've just got a few remaining questions, some having to do with those evolved beings, and then I'm going to allow myself to finish this dialogue.
My beloved, you will never finish this dialogue, nor will you ever have to. Your conversation with God will go on forever. And now that you're actively engaged in it, that conversation will soon lead to friendship. All good conversations eventually lead to friendship, and soon your conversation with God will produce a friendship with God.
You know, I feel that. I feel that we've actually become friends.
And, as happens in all relationships, that friendship, if it is nurtured, kindled, and allowed to grow, will produce, at last, a sense of communion. You will feel and experience yourself as being in communion with God. This will be a holy communion, for then we will speak as one.
So this dialogue will continue then.
Yes, always.
And I won't have to say goodbye at the end of this book.
You never have to say goodbye. You only have to say hello.
You're marvelous. Do you know that? You're simply marvelous.
And so are you, my son, and so are you, as are all my children everywhere.
Say, do you have children everywhere?
Of course.
No. I mean literally everywhere. I mean, is there life on other planets? Are your children elsewhere in the universe?
Again, of course.
Are these civilizations more advanced?
Some of them, yes.
In what way?
In every way. Technologically, politically, socially, spiritually, physically, and psychologically. For instance, your penchant for, your insistence upon comparisons, and your constant need to characterize something as better or worse, higher or lower, good or bad, demonstrates how far into duality you have fallen, how deeply into separatism you have submerged.
In more advanced civilizations, you do not observe these characteristics? And what do you mean, by the way, by duality?
The level of a society's advancement is reflected inevitably in the degree of its duality thinking. Social evolution is demonstrated by movement toward unity, not separatism.
Why? Why is unity such a yardstick?
Because unity is the truth. Separatism is the illusion. As long as a society sees itself as separate, a series or collection of separate units, it lives in the illusion. All of life on your planet is built on separatism, based in duality. You imagine yourselves to be separate families or clans, gathered in separate neighborhoods or states, collected in separate nations or countries, comprising a separate world or planet. You imagine your world to be the only inhabited world in the universe. You imagine your nation to be the finest nation on earth. You imagine your state to be the best state in the nation, and your family the most wonderful in the state. Finally, you think that you are better than anyone else in your family. Oh, you claim you don't think any of this, but you act as if you do. Your true thoughts are reflected every day in your social decisions, your political conclusions, your religious determinations, your economic choices, and your individual selections of everything, from friends to belief systems, to your relationship with God, that is, me. You feel so separate from me that you imagine I won't even talk to you. And so you are required to deny the veracity of your own experience. You experience that you and I are one, but you refuse to believe it. Thus you are separate not only from each other, but from your own truth.
Whoa, how can a person be separate from his or her own truth?
By ignoring it, by seeing it and denying it, or by changing it, twisting it, contorting it to fit a preconceived notion you have about what must be so. Take the question with which you started off here. You asked, is there life on other planets? I answered, of course.
I said, of course, because the evidence is so obvious. It is so obvious that I'm surprised you even asked the question. Yet this is how a person can be separate from his own truth, by looking truth in the eye so squarely he can't miss it, and then denying what he sees. Denial is the mechanism here, and nowhere is denial more insidious than in self-denial. You've spent a lifetime denying who and what you really are. It would be sad enough if you limited your denials to less personal things, such as your depletion of the ozone layer, your rape of old-growth forests, your horrible treatment of your young. But you're not content with denying all that you see around you. You won't rest until you deny all that you see within you as well. You see goodness and compassion within you, but you deny it. You see wisdom within you, but you deny it. You see infinite possibility within you, but you deny it. And you see and experience God within you, yet you deny it. You deny that I am within you, that I am you. And in this you deny me my rightful and obvious place.
I have not and do not deny you.
You admit that you are God?
Well, I wouldn't say that.
Exactly. And I tell you this, before the cock crows, you will deny me 3 times. By your very thoughts will you deny me. By your very words will you deny me. By your very actions will you deny me. You know in your heart that I am with you, in you, that we are one, yet you deny me. Or some of you say I exist, all right, but away from you, way out there somewhere. And the further away you imagine me to be, the further away you step from your own truth. As with so much else in life, from depletion of your planet's natural resources to the abuse of children in so many of your homes, you see it, but you don't believe it.
But why? Why? Why do we see and yet not believe?
Because you are so caught up in the illusion, you are so deep in the illusion that you cannot see past it. Indeed, you must not, for the illusion to continue. This is the divine dichotomy. You must deny me if you are to continue seeking to become me. And that is what you are wanting to do. Yet you cannot become what you already are, so denial is important. It is a useful tool. Until it is not anymore. The Master knows that denial is for those who are choosing to have the illusion continue. Acceptance is for those who choose now for the illusion to end. Acceptance, proclamation, demonstration. Those are the 3 steps to God. Acceptance of who and what you really are. Proclamation of it for all the world to hear, and demonstration in every way. Self-proclamation is always followed by demonstration. You will demonstrate yourself to be God, even as you now demonstrate what you think of yourself. Your whole life is a demonstration of that. Yet with this demonstration will come your greatest challenge. For the moment you stop denying yourself, others will deny you. The moment you proclaim your oneness with God, others will proclaim your partnership with Satan. The moment you speak the highest truth, others will say you speak the lowest blasphemy. And as happens with all masters who gently demonstrate their mastery, you will be both worshipped and reviled, elevated and denigrated, honored and crucified. Because while for you the cycle will be over, those who are still living in the illusion will not know what to make of you.
Yet what will happen to me? I don't understand. I'm confused. I thought you've said over and over again that the illusion must go on, that the game must continue in order for there to be any game at all.
Yes, I've said that, and it does. The game does go on. Because 1 or 2 of you end the cycle of illusion, that does not end the game. Not for you, and not for the other players. The game is not ended until all in all becomes one again. Even then it is not ended. For in the moment of divine reunion, all will the bliss be so magnificent, so intense, that we, you, will literally burst wide open with gladness, exploding with joy, and the cycle will begin all over again. It will never end, my child. The game will never end, for the game is life itself, and life is who we are.
But what happens to the individual element, or part of all, as you call it, which rises to mastery, which achieves all-knowing?
That master knows that only his part of the cycle is complete. She knows that only her experience of the illusion has ended. Now the master laughs, because the master sees the master plan. The master sees that even with her completion of the cycle, the game goes on. The experience continues. The master then also sees the role he may now play in the experience. The master's role is to lead others to mastery. And so the master continues to play, but in a new way and with new tools. For seeing the illusion allows the master to step outside of it. This the master will do from time to time when it suits his purpose and pleasure. Thus she proclaims and demonstrates her mastery, and he is called God, Goddess by others. When all in your race are led to mastery and achieve it, then your race as a whole, for your race is a whole, will move easily through time and space. You will have mastered the laws of physics as you understood them, and you will seek to assist those belonging to other races and other civilizations in coming to mastery as well.
Even as those of other races and other civilizations are doing so now with us?
Exactly. Precisely.
And only when all the races of all the universe have achieved mastery,
or as I would put it, only when all of me has known the oneness,
will this part of the cycle end.
You've put it wisely. For the cycle itself will never end.
Because the very ending of this part of the cycle is the cycle itself.
Bravo, magnifico. You have understood. So yes, there is life on other planets, and yes, much of it is more advanced than your own.
In what way? You never really did answer that question.
Yes, I did. I said in every way. Technologically, politically, socially, spiritually, physically, psychologically.
Yes, but give me some examples. Those are statements so broad that they are meaningless to me.
You know, I love your truth. It's not everyone who would look God in the eye and announce that what he is saying is meaningless.
So, what are you going to do about it?
Exactly. You have exactly the right attitude. Because, of course, you're right. You can challenge me, confront me, and call me into question as much as you want, and I'm not going to do a damn thing. I may, however, do a blessed thing, such as I'm doing here with this dialogue. Is this not a blessed event?
Yes, it is. And many people have been helped by this. Millions of people are being touched by this.
I know that. It's all part of the master plan. The plan for how you become masters.
You knew from the beginning that this trilogy would become a massive success, didn't you?
Of course I did. What do you suppose has made it such a success? Who do you imagine has caused those people who are hearing this to have found their way to it? I tell you this. I know every person who will come to this material, and I know the reason each has been brought, and so do they. Now the only question is, will they deny me again?
Does it matter to you?
Not in the least. All my children will one day come back to me. It is not a question of whether, but of when. And so it may matter to them. Therefore, let those who have ears to hear listen.
Yes. Well, we were talking about life on other planets, and you were about to give me some examples of how it is so much more advanced than life on Earth.
Technologically, most other civilizations are far ahead of you. There are those which are behind you, so to speak, but not many. Most are far ahead of you.
In what way? Give me an example.
Okay. The weather. You don't seem able to control it. You can't even accurately predict it. You are therefore subject to its whims. Most worlds are not. The beings on most planets can control the local temperature, for example.
They can. I thought temperature on a planet was a product of its distance from the sun, its atmosphere, so forth.
Those things establish the parameters. Within those parameters, much can be done.
How so? In what way?
By controlling the environment, by creating or failing to create certain conditions in the atmosphere. You see, it is not only a matter of where you are in relationship to a sun, but what you place between yourself and that sun. You have placed the most dangerous things in your atmosphere and taken out some of the most important. Yet you are in denial about this. That is, most of you will not admit it. Even when the finest minds among you prove beyond doubt the damage you are doing, you will not acknowledge it. You call the finest minds among you crazed and say that you know better. Or you say that these wise people only have an axe to grind, a point of view to validate, and their own interests to protect. Yet it is you who are grinding an axe. It is you who are seeking to validate a point of view. And it is you who are protecting your special interests. And your chief interest is yourself. Every evidence, no matter how scientific, no matter how demonstrable or compelling, will be denied if it violates your self-interest.
That's a rather harsh statement. I'm not even sure it's true.
Really? Now you're calling God a liar?
Well, I wouldn't put it that way exactly.
Do you know how long it has taken your nations to agree to simply stop poisoning the atmosphere with fluorocarbons?
Yes, well...
Well, nothing. Why do you suppose it took so long? Never mind, I'll tell you. It took so long because to stop the poisoning would cost many major companies a great deal of money. It took so long because it would cost many individual people their conveniences. It took so long because for years many people and nations chose to deny, needed to deny, the evidence in order to protect their interest in the status quo, in keeping things the way they are. Only when the rate of skin cancers increased alarmingly. Only when the temperatures began rising and the glaciers and snows began melting and the oceans got warmer and the lakes and rivers began flooding did more of you begin paying attention. Only when your own self-interest demanded it did you see the truth that your finest minds had been placing before you for years.
Well, what's wrong with self-interest? I thought you said in Book 1 that self-interest was the place to start.
I did, and it is. Yet in other cultures and other societies on different planets, the definition of self-interest is much larger than it is on your world. It is very clear to enlightened creatures that what hurts one hurts the many, and that what benefits the few must benefit the many, or ultimately it benefits no one. On your planet, it is just the opposite. What hurts one is ignored by the many, and what benefits the few is denied the many. This is because your definition of self-interest is very narrow, barely reaching past the individual being to his loved ones, and to those only when they do his bidding. Yes, I said in Book 1 that in all relationships, do what is in the best interests of the self. But I also said that when you see what is in your highest self-interest, you will see that it is that which is also in the highest interest of the other. For you and the other are one. You and all others are one. And this is a level of knowingness that you have not attained. You're asking about advanced technologies, and I tell you this, you cannot have advanced technologies in any beneficial way without advanced thinking. Advanced technology without advanced thought creates not advancement but demise. You've already experienced that on your planet, and you are very nearly about to experience it again.
Whoa, wait a minute. What do you mean? What are you talking about?
I'm saying that once before on your planet, you had reached the heights, beyond the heights really, to which you now are slowly climbing. You had a civilization on Earth more advanced than the one now existing, and it destroyed itself. Not only did it destroy itself, it nearly destroyed everything else as well. It did this because it did not know how to deal with the very technologies it had developed. Its technological evolution was so far ahead of its spiritual evolution that it wound up making technology its god. The people worshipped technology and all that it could create and bring, and so they got all that their unbridled technology brought, which was unbridled disaster. They literally brought their world to an end.
This all happened here, on this Earth?
Yes.
Are you talking about the lost city of Atlantis?
Some of you have called it that.
And Lemuria, the land of Mu?
That is also part of your mythology.
So that it is true. We did get to that place before.
Oh, beyond it, my friend. Way beyond it.
And we did destroy ourselves.
Why are you surprised? You're doing the same thing now.
I know we are. Will you tell us how we can stop?
There are many other books devoted to this subject. Most people ignore them.
Well, give us one title. I promise you we won't ignore it.
Read The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight.
By a man named Tom Hartman. Yes, I love that book.
Good. This messenger is inspired. Bring this book to the attention of the world.
I will.
It says everything that I would say here in answer to your last question. There's no need for me to rewrite that book through you. It contains a summary of many of the ways in which your Earth home is being damaged and ways that you can stop the ruination.
So far, what the human race has been doing on this planet is not very smart. In fact, throughout this dialogue, you've described our species as primitive. Ever since you first made that remark, I've been wondering what it must be like living in a non-primitive culture. You say there are many such societies or cultures in the universe.
Yes.
How many?
Oh, a great many.
Dozens? Hundreds?
Thousands.
Thousands? There are thousands of advanced civilizations?
Yes, and there are other cultures more primitive than yours.
What else marks a society as either primitive or advanced?
The degree to which it implements its own highest understandings. This is different from what you believe. You believe that a society should be called primitive or advanced based on how high its understandings are. But what good are the highest understandings if you do not implement them? The answer is they're no good at all. Indeed, they are dangerous. It is the mark of a primitive society to call regression progress. Your society has moved backward, not forward. Much of your world demonstrated more compassion 70 years ago than it does today.
Some people are going to have a hard time hearing this, you know. You say you're a non-judgmental God, yet some people may feel judged and made wrong all over the place here.
We've been over this before. If you say you want to go to Seattle and you're actually driving to San Jose, is the person of whom you're asking directions being judgmental if you're told you're heading in a direction that won't get you where you say you want to go?
Calling us primitive is not simply giving us directions. The word primitive is pejorative.
Really? And yet you say you so admire primitive art, and certain music is often savored for its primitive qualities, to say nothing of certain women.
You're using wordplay now to change things around.
Not at all. I'm merely showing you that primitive is not necessarily pejorative. It is your judgment that makes it so. Primitive is merely descriptive. It simply says what is true. A certain thing is in the very early stages of development. It says nothing more than that. It says nothing about right or wrong. You add those meanings. I have not made you wrong here. I have merely described your culture as primitive. That would only sound wrong to you if you have a judgment about being primitive. I have no such judgment. Understand this. An assessment is not a judgment. It is merely an observation of what is. I want you to know that I love you. I have no judgments about you. I look at you and see only beauty and wonder.
Like that primitive art.
Precisely. I hear your melody and I feel only excitement.
As with primitive music.
You're understanding me now. I feel the energy of your race as you would the energy of a man or woman of primitive sensuality. And like you, I am aroused. Now that is what is true about you and me. You do not disgust me. You do not disturb me. You do not even disappoint me. You arouse me. I am aroused to new possibilities, to new experiences yet to come. In you, I am awakened to new adventures and to the excitement of movement to new levels of magnificence. Far from disappointing me, you thrill me. I am thrilled at the wonder of you. You think you are at the pinnacle of human development, and I tell you, you're just beginning. You have only just begun to experience your splendor. Your grandest ideas are as yet unexpressed, and your grandest vision unlived. But wait, look, notice. The days of your blossoming are at hand. The stalk has grown strong, and the petals are soon to open. And I tell you this, the beauty and the fragrance of your flowering shall fill the land, and you shall yet have your place in the garden of the gods.
Now that's what I want to hear. That's what I came here to experience. Inspiration, not degradation.
You are never degraded unless you think you are. You are never judged or made wrong by God.
Well, a lot of people don't get this idea of a God who says there's no such thing as right and wrong and who proclaims that we will never be judged.
Well, make up your mind. First you say I'm judging you, then you're upset because I'm not.
I know. It's all very confusing. We're all very complex. We don't want your judgments, but we do. We don't want your punishments, yet we feel lost without them. And when you say, as you did in the other two books, I will never punish you, we can't believe that. And some of us almost get mad about it, because if you're not going to judge and punish us, what will keep us walking the straight and narrow? And if there's no justice in heaven, who will undo all the injustice on earth?
Why are you counting on heaven to correct what you call injustice? Do not the rains fall from the heavens?
Yes.
And I tell you this, the rain falls on the just and the unjust alike.
But what about vengeance is mine, saith the Lord?
I never said that. One of you made that up, and the rest of you believed it.
Oh.
Justice is not something you experience after you act a certain way, but because you act a certain way. Justice is an act, not a punishment for an act.
I see that the problem with our society is that we seek justice after an injustice has occurred rather than doing justice in the first place.
Right on the head. You've hit the nail right on the head. Justice is an action, not a reaction. Do not therefore look to me to somehow fix everything in the end by imposing
some form of celestial justice in the afterlife. I tell you this, there is no afterlife, but only life. Death does not exist. And the way you experience and create your life as individuals and as a society is your demonstration of what you think is just.
And in this you do not see the human race as very evolved, do you? I mean, if the whole of evolution were placed on a football field, where would we be?
On the 12-yard line.
You're kidding.
No.
We're on the 12-yard line of evolution?
Hey, you've moved from the 6 to the 12 in the past century alone.
Any chance of ever scoring a touchdown?
Of course, if you don't fumble the ball again.
Again?
As I've said, this isn't the first time your civilization has been at this brink. I want to repeat this because it is vital that you hear this. Once before on your planet, the technology you developed was far greater than your ability to use it responsibly. You're approaching the same point in human history again. It's vitally important that you understand this. Your present technology is threatening to outstrip your ability to use it wisely. Your society is on the verge of becoming a product of your technology, rather than your technology being a product of your society. When a society becomes a product of its own technology, it destroys itself.
Why is that? Can you explain that?
Yes. The crucial issue is the balance between technology and cosmology, the cosmology of all life.
What do you mean, the cosmology of all life?
Simply put, it is the way things work, the system, the process. There is a method to my madness, you know.
I was hoping there was.
And the irony is that once you figure out that method, once you begin to understand more and more of how the universe works, you run a greater risk of causing a breakdown. In this way, ignorance can be bliss. The universe is itself a technology. It is the greatest technology. It works perfectly, on its own. But once you get in there and start messing around with universal principles and universal laws, you run the risk of breaking those laws. And that's a 40-yard penalty.
A major setback for the home team.
Yes.
So, are we out of our league here?
You're getting close. Only you can determine whether you're out of your league. You'll determine that with your actions. For instance, you know enough about atomic energy now to blow yourselves to kingdom come.
Yeah, but we're not going to do that. We're smarter than that. We'll stop ourselves.
Really? You keep proliferating your weapons of mass destruction the way you've been doing, and pretty soon they'll get into the hands of somebody who will hold the world hostage to them, or destroy the world trying. You're giving matches to children, then hoping they won't burn the place down, and you've yet to learn how to use the matches yourselves. The solution to all this is obvious. Take the matches away from the children, then throw your own matches away.
Well, it's too much to expect a primitive society to disarm itself. And so nuclear disarmament, our only lasting solution, appears out of the question. We can't even agree on a halt to nuclear testing. We are a race of beings singularly unable to control ourselves.
And if you don't kill yourselves with your nuclear madness, you'll destroy your world with your environmental suicide. You're dismantling your home planet's ecosystem, and you continue to say that you're not. As if that weren't enough, you're tinkering with the biochemistry of life itself, cloning and genetically engineering, and not doing so with sufficient care to have this be a boon to your species, but threatening instead to make it the greatest disaster of all time. If you are not careful, you will make the nuclear and environmental threats look like child's play. By developing medicines to do the work that your bodies were intended to do, you've created viruses so resistant to attack that they stand poised to knock out your entire species.
Hey, you're getting me a little scared here. Is all lost then? Is the game over?
No, but it is 4th and 10. It's time to throw a Hail Mary, and the quarterback is looking around for receivers in the clear. Are you clear? Are you able to receive this? I'm the quarterback, and the last time I looked, you and I were wearing the same colored jersey. Are we still on the same team?
I thought there was only one team. Who's on the other team?
Every thought which ignores our oneness, every idea which separates us, every action which announces that we are not united. The other team is not real, yet it is part of your reality, for you have made it so. If you are not careful, your own technology, that which was created to serve you, will kill you.
Right now I can hear some people saying, but what can one person do?
They can start by dropping that what can one person do stuff. I've already told you. There are hundreds of books on this subject. Stop ignoring them. Read them, act on them, awaken others to them. Start a revolution. Make it an evolution revolution.
Isn't that what's been going on for a long time?
Yes and no. The process of evolution has been ongoing forever, of course. But now that process is taking a new twist. There's a new turn here. Now you have become aware that you are evolving. And not only that you are evolving, but how. Now you know the process by which evolution occurs, and through which your reality is created. Before you were simply an observer of how your species was evolving. Now you are a conscious participant. More people than ever before are aware of the power of the mind, their interconnectedness with all things, and their real identity as a spiritual being. More people than ever before are living from that space, practicing principles that invoke and produce specific results, desired outcomes, and intended experiences. This truly is an evolution revolution. For now larger and larger numbers of you are creating consciously the quality of your experience, the direct expression of who you really are, and the rapid manifestation of who you choose to be. That's what makes this such a critical period. That's why this is the crucial moment. For the first time in your presently recorded history, although not for the first time in human experience, you have both the technology and the understanding of how to use it to destroy your entire world. You can actually render yourselves extinct.
These are the exact points made in a book by Barbara Marx Hubbard called Conscious Evolution.
Yes, that is so.
It's a document of breathtaking sweep, with wondrous visions of how we can avoid the dire outcomes of previous civilizations and truly produce heaven on earth. You probably inspired it.
I think Barbara might say that I had a hand in it.
You know, you said before that you've inspired hundreds of writers, many messengers. Are there other books we should be aware of?
Way too many to list here. Why not conduct your own search and make a list of the ones that have particularly appealed to you and share that with others? I have been speaking through authors, poets, and playwrights from the beginning of time. I've placed my truth in the lyrics of songs and in the faces of paintings, in the shapes of sculptures, and in every beat of the human heart for ages past, and I will for ages to come. Each person comes to wisdom in a way that is most understandable, along a path that is most familiar. Each messenger of God derives truth from the simplest moments and shares it with equal simplicity. You are such a messenger. Go now and tell your people to live together in their highest truth. Share together their wisdom, experience together their love, for they can exist in peace and harmony. Then will yours too be an elevated society, such as those we have been discussing.